Welcome everybody to the Crowdcreate NFT conference. Everyone is talking about NFTs. Now you can hear about it from the top thought leaders in the industry. Today, you'll be able to listen to some of the most successful founders, VC investors, artists, and celebrities share their insights. In fact, 4 of the top 10 highest projects in NFT sales will be joining our conference today to discuss what's going on in not just NFTs, but where the industry is headed next. The goal of this event is to support the community and to share insights. Each panelist has been specially chosen because they're doing something truly interesting. You're going to want to listen in to the entire conference and not miss out. Again, we encourage everybody to post in the chat if you have any questions and just engage in general. I'll personally be looking at the questions and answers throughout the entire day and engaging with you as well.
We are Crowdcreate, and we help crypto and blockchain businesses get connected to the top investors, influencers, strategic partners that can help them grow. We believe in the wisdom of the crowds, bringing together the most successful thought leaders in the industry. We do have a private Slack community where you can engage with these panelists. To learn and apply, visit crowdcreate.us. I'm really excited today. Our opening panel will be joined by John Crane, the founder of SuperRare, and Miko Matsumura from Gumi Ventures, 2 of the most influential thought leaders paving the future for NFTs. Both have extensive background in digital assets and have a passion for the creator economy. 2021 has been a wild ride for NFTs, but I have to say, I did not expect the first house on Mars to sell this year. All right, let's kick it off. Welcome, John. Welcome, Miko.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Yep. Miko, welcome. I see you have your camera perfectly set up.
Yeah,
all right.
Thank you.
So to kick things off, I know it's a really hot topic, and all the major media news are covering NFTs. I wanted to start it off. John, why is everyone talking about NFTs?
I mean, I think because they really are, a 0 to 1 technology. I think cryptocurrency ushered in tons of opportunities for, fungible tokens and use cases where you would want a fungible token. And we never really had a set standard for, identifying unique objects. And that's really what NFTs do. And so I think there's really quite a few different verticals, and, it warrants the hype and attention.
I think not just on some of the verticals. Yes, I see that, but there's also a big underlining trend where it's like the creator community is really being highlighted right now. And Miko and John, feel free to jump in. I want to hear from the 2 of you. You are absolutely the thought leaders. Why is this such a trend, and why is this the perfect golden age for the creator community?
I'd like to think that we're, in some sense, recapitulating a bit of human history, right? So, I think the first proof of work currency is probably the Yap stones, which required proof of work where you carve a giant wheel, and you can trade them for goats, so I think that might have been the first exchange, right? And obviously it was decentralized in the sense that anyone could mint the Yap stones and they just had to do the work, right? But I'd say the period we're in history right now is actually medieval, right? So we're in the medieval era, and it's kind of interesting because we already have gold, right? So the purpose of hoarding of gold is really to create these kingdoms, right? Because what happened is that Bitcoin produced sovereignty, right? And now we have sovereigns, right? So everyone who has Bitcoins is a sovereign, right? And obviously now that they have a sovereign, I think that, they're getting really interested in patronage. So, I think one of the things that's happening in NFT, especially around the arts, is that there's a lot of patronage from kind of these super whale class investors, and I'm kind of using the term Bitcoin loosely since, a huge amount of the phenomenon is the interaction between ERC standards and smart contracts, and I think, to crib from a speaker later today, Jake Bruckman, I think that it's really an internet infrastructure for respecting intellectual property. So much like cryptographic fungible assets are going to take over all value of all financial assets, it's likely that NFT will take over the value of all intellectual properties. So, I think we're just at the very beginning of that. I'm not a practitioner, I'm an investor. So, we invested early into OpenSea, and we definitely have been tracking this space for a while. But I definitely want to defer to my colleagues here. I definitely think John knows a lot more about this than I do.
That's awesome, Miko. Yeah, let's unpack that. NFTs will take over all intellectual property. John, every time I log into Google News, I see SuperRare being mentioned. So you're really at the forefront and in the limelight. So please share it. What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, I think, as Miko mentioned, you can think about NFTs as kind of strong digital property rights that can be sort of applied to anything, right? A great example, and sort of the one that we're most inspired by, is using NFTs for digital art property rights, right? An NFT on SuperRare, it's a certificate of authenticity created by the artist, but it's also sort of proof of ownership for a collector. And I think what's fascinating is we've never been able to kind of do this at scale. If you look at the art market, there's really no good data around, I mean, maybe not no good data, but there's no good accessible data, right? If you want to have good data, you need a proprietary subscription from a company like ArtNet to, know who has, specific pieces of art or what's a good price for a piece of art. And I think with NFTs, you're seeing the floodgates open, right? Like all of this data is out there. It's open for anyone to audit, anyone to look at. And so I think, we're going to see massive market expansion just because we have so much transparency around these new assets.
Yeah, I really love what you're doing at SuperRare. And, one of the things I wanted to speak to a little bit also is Gumi actually comes from the gaming and mobile gaming background. So, I think from our side, we recently did an investment in YGG, Yield Guild Games. And it's fascinating because I was talking about the medieval era, right? So now we're seeing the formation of crafting and we're seeing the formation of guilds, right? So, guild is definitely kind of part of the growth of this kind of NFT economy. But I think the thing I really wanted to touch on as a note is I really wanted to talk about sort of utopian versus dystopian metaverses, right? Because I think one of the things that we're seeing in the arts world is the development of online galleries. So we're starting to see a lot of really interesting, I'm trying to punt the ball back to you, because I think that, in some ways, my theme in some ways is thinking about when people talk about intellectual property. I think one of the things that's funny is that their entire vibe has been built around, I think the other day, DC Comics launched a volley at Batman-inspired NFTs, and the phrase they said was, "Batman is ours alone to exploit." Like that was their, that was their language, right? So I think, the vibe around so-called intellectual property or IP has been IP rights holders doing kind of trolling and enforcement, and it's kind of, but it's not the creator economy, right? So I think that what I'm interested in is kind of how this internet infrastructure enables a more utopian metaverse as opposed to a dystopian metaverse. So that's kind of my theme for the day. But I'd love to punt it back to you in terms of galleries and metaverses and online and how you see the evolution.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it really is sort of a golden age for the creator economy, and within kind of this the idea of the utopian metaverse. Just from day one, SuperRare in our secondary market, we launched with royalty payments for creators. And what's incredible is that it wasn't even hard to do, right? It's just a little bit of code in your smart contract, and you can in real time make these settlements. Like Spotify is still settling, months after people are listening to music, even though we have all the technology available to do something like this, right now. Like it's been happening on SuperRare for 3 years. And so I think, in this case, I think we're going to be moving from, like Miko was talking about, like, the concept of like owning Batman and exploiting, every cent that you can squeeze out of it, right? It's like, you can now prove that, like, hey, this artist, look, 5 years ago, they created this piece of art. It's this NFT. You kind of get all these, you get the provenance there almost for free just by using an NFT and the blockchain, which is super fascinating, right? Like these have been extremely challenging concepts. Like how do you appropriately attribute, say you are like, remixing something, or like, it's kind of hard to like appropriately attribute to the original creator. And I think we're building the tools right now where, we've probably almost have them all built, right? We've built a very solid infrastructure. And we're now just figuring out like, what are new creative ways we can use this, right? Like, how can we, empower creators to do what they do very well, and, also then empower consumers, right? There's a lot of people who are excited to, support and, be patrons, right? Like, many people haven't even really had the opportunity to be a patron before. I think that's another example for art, is like, it's kind of difficult to become an art collector. Like, if you walk down the street and you're like, hey, do you collect art? People are like, hey man, like, I'm not Steve Cohen, I'm not a billionaire. And it's super interesting, right? It's like, visual art's fun. Like, anyone can look at a painting and say like, that's amazing, I want to know more about the artist, or that's horrible, I still want to know more about the artist. Like, art's fun to talk about. And so like, I think we're seeing kind of, I know it's probably overused, but sort of like the democratization of some of these kind of, established institutions. They're kind of being unbundled and opened. And, like, it's now just, we're building the tools that let people kind of, run wild and have fun.
So John, empowering, oh, sorry, Mika, go for it.
I'm excited about what you're describing, right? Because in a sense, you're describing some of the rails, right? So when we talk about respect for intellectual property, and the creator economy and rights creators and owners, right? Like, the owners become the creators and vice versa, right? But to me, the thing that's super interesting is the interaction between these ERC standards, right? Because, YGG is working on NFT standards for rental. Obviously, there's already kind of fractional ownership. There are kind of incredible kind of decentralized financial primitives being built on top so that, NFTs can be financialized. So there's just tremendous kinds of mechanisms of respect, right? And in a sense, what you're talking about with attribution, right? Like, if you're building like a rap song with a clips from someone else, just imagine the potential complexity, the rails, right? So when we talk about respect, like, you kind of have to imagine like a jewel on a velvet cushion, right? Like, it's almost like the creator is sort of super being like, everything that they did is sort of being honored, right? So when you think about things like the generational aspects or the breeding aspects of Axie or CryptoKitties, right? Like, those are all rails, right? Those are rails. They're in intellectual property terms, those are effectively derivative works, right? So then the question becomes, what are the rights associated with derivative works? And it's like, look in the contract, like the contract will specify, right? So everything will be kind of tailor-made to the applications, right? So the applications will really drive this creator economy, and the respect will be, because right now it's ridiculous. You put up a website and get Google images, and then all of a sudden these patent trolls are like scanning you, and they're kind of trying to sue you for like, oh, you used this image off of, the public, whatever, off of Getty or something, so that's just the opposite of what we're going to see. And that to me is dystopian, right? It's dystopian to have patent trolls and just these rights organizations that actually have nothing to do with the creator, right? They're just trolling, so to me, I think, just getting this extremely deep respect for creators is the more of the utopian vision. So I just wanted to kind of underline that. And I see we're getting some really neat questions in the chat too. So I just wanted to also acknowledge that and invite us to kind of dip into some of that too.
Yeah, should we check out some of these? Let's see one here from Camille. What's the take on fractionalization? I mean, I think fractionalization is super interesting. I mean, the challenge really is, I mean, for us as a US-based entity, would be around regulation, right? Like, the technology is free and easy to use. The challenge would be, dealing with regulators. But I think it's great, right? Like, I think that's part of what's interesting is like, talking about sort of Rails or this infrastructure, like a lot of it's there and works today. Like, it's, I felt like in 2017, we were talking about like, oh, this is going to happen one day. We'll decentralize such and such, and it'll be amazing. And, this is what we're talking about today is already happening, right? Like on SuperRare, artists have made over $25 million in sales and royalties, like already, that's not slowing down. So like, I think what's cool is, it's already happening. And with fractionalization, like other people are already doing that too. So like, I think there's some really interesting platforms kind of dedicated to working on sort of derivatives around NFTs. So I think it's definitely an interesting space.
I'm really loving all these questions. Like one of the things that I see is sort of a thread that's kind of weaving through some of these questions that really relate to mechanism, right? So in a sense, there's this idea of medieval patronage and kind of advanced payments, right? So that's kind of a mechanism, right? And then I see other things that talk about kind of mechanisms like fractionalization, obviously, things like traditional rights collectors, and does that make that obsolete? I think the thing that we're seeing with respect to rights aggregation, right, is that it ultimately is just like any blockchain sort of competitive advantage, which is it's about disintermediating the non-value adding intermediaries. Right now, there are, like, for example, if you look at SuperRare, like that's a hugely value adding intermediary, and they're building kind of incredibly respectful code to kind of enable artists to make what they deserve, right? Which is just really quite a lot, and I think that, that's brilliant, right? So to me, the idea of these non-value adding intermediaries, like, and I think record labels are going to change, you got guys like Peter Jackson, Lord of the Rings, suing their movie studio because they refuse to pay, so I mean, the non-value adding intermediaries have got to go. And this is typical of any blockchain revolution where you're just seeing, the denecessitization of these kind of intermediaries, and I think that becomes super interesting, and that becomes part of the utopian narrative. The other question I'd love to toss over to John is that there's two questions that tie together here, which is kind of, where did NFT come from, and is NFT here to stay, right? So those two questions I feel like are linked, and maybe you can kind of grab onto that.
Sure. Well, so let's see, where did they come from? I think there have been quite a few, experiments sort of like throughout time. I think my first exposure to kind of NFTs with their relation to art was a product called Ascribe that was issuing kind of like, colored coin style certificates on top of Bitcoin. So, we certainly we didn't invent the concept. We just kind of, applied it in kind of like our social experience. But I mean, I think the history is fascinating, right? If you look at kind of the early Bitcoin examples, obviously there was very interesting, stuff with rare Pepes. I don't know if folks know kind of like the history there, but it's super fascinating. Like people selling these JPEGs via eBay so they could upload them to 4chan. Like it's super wild. And then, kind of the evolution to experiments on top of Ethereum, right? Like, I think CryptoPunks was one of the first examples I can think of on, built on top of Ethereum. Those are still obviously doing amazing. The volumes have been going through the roof this year. And are they here to stay? I think absolutely, right? Like, I like to think about, another way to think about NFTs is just like, it's an extremely simple identity standard. You can identify any digital object. In crypto, everyone loves to talk about identity, and it's this like huge complex thing. And like NFTs, it's like very simple identity. It's just like, it works. It works with every wallet, any NFT marketplace. And so I certainly think it's here to stay. And I think we're kind of just figuring out like, okay, what are the really good use cases? And I think there's going to be massive opportunities in lots of different verticals within the space.
John, what are the biggest opportunities you're seeing for SuperRare? Where do you think things are going? Well, art being the most popular right now, but what is the future?
Well, so I think that we're going to end up with kind of, for SuperRare, I think we're going to stay focused on digital art. I think there's a massive opportunity for people to bring, like for a lot of folks, art happens in galleries, it happens in museums, you study it, in an art history class. Really, it should be part of your everyday life. There's billions of screens all around, and why not bring something beautiful into your life that you appreciate and support, a creative who can, anywhere in the world. And so I think we're really thinking about like how do we build more engaging art experiences? And like, what does the future of art look like? You know, for me, I think we're seeing art and kind of gaming culture collide. Like the future of art is like people hanging out in Discord chats, right? It's not just sipping wine and eating cheese and like hanging out, you know, not that those are not fun things to do. People should still do that. But I think like it's happening in real time in Discord now. And like, people are putting together VR art exhibitions. And so I think, you know, that's what we're really excited about and kind of, you know, want to facilitate and nurture.
I kind of want to springboard off of that. There's a question about Decentraland and Upland, and you know we're going to hear actually from Sebastian Bourget from Sandbox, right? So you know I think to me that relates directly to this kind of concept of metaverse, and you know, and I think John was just talking about sort of art galleries, right? So I think you know it's definitely interesting to see, right? Because for example, when you think about the world's largest kind of rock concert, you know, it was virtual and, you know, held in Fortnite, right? So in a sense, like what you're seeing is you're seeing art and you're seeing gaming, you know, and you're seeing these things all kind of convergent into the metaverse. And the question that I'm kind of continuing to poke at is whether it will be a utopian or dystopian metaverse. And the reason why I think that's an interesting question is when we talk about the metaverse, we have to go back into the canon of this concept, right? Which comes from sort of Neuromancer. It comes from like, you know, Gibson and obviously Neil Stephenson, you know, a bunch of these kind of cyberpunk fiction authors, obviously Blade Runner, you know, there's so many different, you know, Philip Dick. So there's so many different precursors. And then of course it culminates in effectively Ready Player One, right? So, you know, when we see a lot of the kind of noir cyberpunk kind of genesis of this concept of the metaverse, those are all effectively dystopian metaverses, right? You know, effectively what's happened is environmental collapse and a preference for the digital to the non-digital, you know, in an almost addictive like quality. But I think the thing that's prevalent in these themes are the domination of corporate interests, right? Over governments and over individuals. So it's effectively like an utterly corporately dominated landscape. And I think one of the things that's incredibly refreshing about the revolutionary nature of present day NFT is that there are a lot of individual beneficiaries, and you know I think that's the revolutionary element. And you know, so I think the revolution will not be televised to crib from Gil Scott Heron. You know, it'll be NFTized.
It'll be tokenized.
Yes, I like that. That's good.
We're going into the final 5 minutes, and I know this is awesome. I even saw some of the audience giving you a nod for mentioning Ready Player One. But it's a really impactful movie and a novel. But yeah, in the final 5 minutes, I'd really like to touch upon John. A lot of people have been asking, you know, the everyday consumer, because I understand there's a creator community side, but there's also the general consumer. You know, how do they come and see? And I know we touched upon VR and experiential. Where do you see that? And Miko, I'd love to hear from you too. Like, where do you see the future of NFTs from the side of, let's say, a fan or just an everyday user?
Yeah, so I mean, I think, you know, we're already seeing a huge number of folks kind of purchase specific digital displays to show off their collection. And that's everything from art to, you know, like anything and everything in between, crypto kitties. And so I think that's going to be the first touch point, right? It's not the metaverse, it's not way off in the future, but again, like I think that's the bridge that gets us there, right? Like people love to show off, people love to collect. And it kind of brings part of that museum gallery experience into your home, right? You're talking about what you're collecting with your friends, right? Like, what do you do with Pokemon cards? You're like talking about how you got the Charizard from the kid down the street and like you traded him to Pikachu's and like you got a better deal. You know, like I think like it's just this fun thing to do. And so I think that's kind of like in the near term, this is just a huge revolution in digital collecting. You know, in the long term, I think we're going to see a lot more interesting things happen with AR and VR.
Yeah, I don't think AR, VR are necessarily that far out. You know, one of the things that we're seeing are these beautiful kind of integrations, right? So, you know, I think that's really where I think the game goes. You know, from my perspective, in terms of like the distant future, I think there is a tremendous hope here. And I think one of the things that's exciting is kind of this clash of civilization. So on my show, I spoke with Dmitry Buterin about early Ethereum. And he said they deliberately went to abundance and stepped away from Bitcoin scarcity. But what's so funny is that both scarcity and abundance are real, right? So the question becomes, how do we navigate these two extremely divergent themes, right? And in a sense, one of the things I love to say, just as a closing note, is that, NFT seems to be almost a way for the kind of Ethereum community to make the Bitcoin maxis insane, So in a sense, it's sort of peak abundance, and in a sense, it's moving all the way up Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you want to see a really, really interesting kind of synergy or hybrid of the scarcity and abundance mindset, check out Yield Guild. I put the link in the chat. They have a really weird and incredible play to earn model that's kind of transforming kind of emerging markets and emerging market game players. So I just want to throw that in as a vision of the future and the utopian metaverse.
Awesome. I'm gonna check it out. I haven't played it yet.
Thanks for sharing, Miko. And John and Miko, thank you so much for your time. That was an awesome keynote. And thank you for sharing your insights and kind of looking forward. It's a great, platform for the rest of today. Definitely stick around. There's going to be a lot of, actually, you already see a lot of questions being asked to the two of you. So feel free to stick around and answer some of those questions. To the attendees, John Crane, thank you. Miko, thank you. So we're going to be moving into the next category on this event. So after this keynote, we have 3 pitches, and we also have panelists. We have 2 from 11 to 11:30, ecosystems, developer ecosystems, to what's the future of NFTs. And also in the closing, we have some pretty strong speakers to close out the event. But moving forward, let's open up with our first pitch. So the format of these pitches are going to be 10 minutes. They're going to be presenting their project on the screen, and they'll be sharing their screen, and they'll be presenting it. So first up, thank you, Vinay Gupta from Mattereum. You'll be hearing a ring from me as we hit the 1 minute mark and the 30-second mark. So excited to hear from you. Thank you, Vinay.
Great, fantastic. Hi, everybody. How's it going? I am absolutely delighted to be here. About 10 minutes before the session started, we got our first physical NFT on chain. So today is literally launch day. I guess I'm going to show you some stuff, and then I'm going to show you some slides, and there we are. So let me just wade right in and show you what we do. So here we have the first of our NFT auctions, which is live. And we're doing this on behalf of...
Vinay, are you sharing your screen right now?
I ought to be. Let's give that another try. Okay, that's better. Sorry about that. Here we have the first NFT that we've minted for our friend Paul Camuso, who is working with William Shatner on a large collection of Hollywood memorabilia. And unlike most NFTs, this NFT refers to a physical thing which is being held in a vault. So you'll see it come around in a second, right? Here we've got the GIF of the NFT, and what we're doing is we're showing you a set of reference pictures of the physical object which is vaulted, and I'll show you something about the authentication features and that in a second. So, a set of descriptions of the physical item in the vault, some legal terms and conditions, and then if you want to see the full set of details, we have a set of warranties on the physical object which you are going to be buying. Now, this is kind of where we leave the blockchain orthodoxy and something new happens. These warranties, and you literally just click through to these guys, these warranties are legally binding in 160 countries. So when you buy this NFT, a small payment is taken from the OpenSea payment, and it's routed to the person that's offering you the legal warranty on the object. And because they've taken your money in that payment, you now have a legal contract with them, and you're looking at that legal contract, right? Here's a set of information, reference images about the object, valuations. This is a 2-item set, so it's a matching Kirk and Spock figure. It's kind of cool if you like that sort of thing. And you can see they've got matching numbers, 1584. And you can also see they have these tags on them. Let me just zoom in there. Oops, daisy. So these tags, you can see that I'm pointing out with my mouse pointer here. These are little silicon chips, which have a public key, private key pair on them. And if you scan these things with a phone, what it gives you is an identification number that cannot be replicated. So essentially, it's a crypto wallet on chip solution. Use a phone to verify. And oops, daisy, sorry, this is all messed up. So what this gives you is a very, very strong set of legal proofs about a physical object in a vault. We're starting this out with a set of memorabilia, and shortly after that, there is going to be a whole range of extremely crazy things coming into this structure. So that is the kind of first thing we do, right? This is the first product. And that is literally live on OpenSea right now. If you go to shatneronchain.com, you can actually see the various auctions which are starting. There are going to be new items listing there throughout the day, and then there'll be batches dropping probably about every month right into the future. So now I should probably talk about why we're doing this, because cool as this is, there is a lot more going on with Mattereum than this initial thing. Now, where are my slides? There we go. So the reason that we're doing this is not the sort of simple, like, hey, we like collectibles, this is kind of cool, right? What we have is a very large scale plan for very, very, very heavy kind of planetary re-engineering, right? We're intending to fix the world in a way which is extremely fundamental, and we're going to do it by getting rid of the currently broken set of systems of incentives that we have inside of capitalism that are leading us down a path of ecological destruction, right? If you change the incentives, you change the society, and the incentive landscape that we want to create is an incentive landscape where every physical thing is considered to be precious because the creation of that physical thing permanently consumed some of the Earth's resources to create. And in that world, the things will have almost indefinite lifespans. You will have clothes, you will have cars, you will have bicycles, you will have computers. They will be designed to be resold and resold and resold and resold for decades, ideally, and centuries in some cases. So the idea here is that we want to go from a kind of take, make, waste economy to an economy of permanence where we have a large pool of physical assets which are controlled by computers, and you can do whole systems optimization using algorithms of the disposition of physical matter globally. And this is not an alternative to the market economy. This is just adding data to the market economy until the market economy becomes truly efficient. And part of that true efficiency is that we stop wasting the Earth's resources to make things that we then throw away. So this is the objective, right? This is a very, very different kind of blockchain approach. And what we're doing in this context is we're using the NFTs as a way of initially demonstrating the ability to bind the physical and the digital together. And once that binding is clear and strong and everybody understands how it works, we begin to branch out into other areas, area by area by area by area, following the profit gradients. My team is outstanding. They've been working like dogs for the past couple of weeks to get us ready for the launch, which is happening right now. I want to stress that we're very strong on ontology. So James is a former curator of arms and armor at the Tower of London, a very famous museum. Thomas worked in the gold industry for many years and is very, very good at all the fiddly details you need when you're handling software for very valuable objects. So the market that we're moving into, collectibles are a subset of the initial sort of field that we're playing in, which is the $2 trillion a year of counterfeit goods which are sold. And you can see places like Amazon are coming under all kinds of fire for counterfeiting. And this is not just individual lawsuits. This is stuff directly from Congress. Counterfeit goods are a huge issue, and it's trillions of dollars of trade. What we're doing is essentially building miniature DAOs around physical objects. So if I take some physical item, we can say, okay, this is the person who knows where it came from. This is the person who can tell you what it's good for. Here's the person with the ecological report. And we're binding them together with both legal and smart contracts into a trust community around physical assets. So if that's a gold bar, you need experts in gold provenance, you need people that saw it being refined, you need testing data. If you're looking at something like an acre of rainforest, you need satellite reconnaissance, you need drone imagery, you need an ecological report. Whatever kind of asset you're working with, we find the right network of people to put around the asset to give the asset representable value on chain. This is what is missing, because right now e-commerce doesn't have any kind of trust community. You only have one person that gives you the word that the goods are good. And if that person sells you a ringer, you have essentially no recourse. And what we have is a very sophisticated system for mutual cross-checking of trust and the binding together of the systems so that you do have meaningful recourse. I'm just going to skip a couple of slides here. I talked about this already. This is this notion of the full integration of ecological data and financial data. The blockchain storing both the ecological and the financial data for these assets. It's a single integrated system. And we will be launching a set of physical goods which have provenance information and carbon offsets, not just for the issuance of the NFT, but carbon offsets for the issuance of the actual creation of the physical goods themselves. So there, I am actually going to shut up because I've shown you everything I want to show you. And I am just going to pop forward, and this is where we are, right? Raising a Series A in the very near future. Be in touch if you'd like to talk to us. Thank you.
Vinay, thank you for your presentation. There are a lot of questions from the community, and you answered a few of them about why, should you issue an NFT for a physical object. So there's a lot of questions. Feel free to answer it in the Q&A in the chat. A lot of people are asking you questions, but
fantastic. I will.
Vinay, we have a lot of respect for you. I know that you've been speaking about NFTs, and you're truly a futurist on all things, and bringing William Shatner into the space. So thanks for your presentation. And yeah, lots of questions and comments for you here from the audience.
Thank you very much. I'll follow up with people. Much appreciated, guys. It's an exciting day. Literally 20 minutes before we were coming up, I got the Slack message like, it's done. They're going up about one every 5 minutes. So yeah, super pleased. Really happy.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
All right. So next presenter, we have Claudio Parrinello from Planet Watch. So thank you, Vinay. We're going to be welcoming Claudio to the stage. Feel free to introduce yourself. Again, you have 10 minutes to present. I'll be ringing a bell at the 1 minute mark and at the 30-second mark. So excited to share your projects. You will be getting questions in the chat. So feel free to go through your presentation and share your exciting project. And afterwards, you can answer those questions.
Absolutely. So hi, guys. Good to see you. Thank you for having me here. Claudio Parrinello, CEO and founder of Planet Watch. So let me share the screen to begin with and see if I can show you some slides. Okay, so hoping it works. Okay, that's a good start. Okay, so Planet Watch is a company based in France, actually very near Geneva, very near Switzerland, very near CERN. CERN is the research lab where the web was born. And in fact, let me brag a little bit. We are the only blockchain company in the world who is a formal partner of CERN. We are a spin-off of CERN Geneva. So that's kind of good. So I'm going to talk tonight about green collectibles and explain what I mean by that. But first of all, let's see what Planet Watch does. So the problem we tackle is the fact that poor air quality kills an average of 7 million people per year worldwide. So it causes 7 million premature deaths per year. So monitoring the quality of the air is a very important global health challenge. And the problem is that air quality monitoring is broken, meaning that air quality monitoring is usually a responsibility of governments, and governments typically deploy very few sensors on the ground, high spec, but very few sensors. The problem is the following. Let's say you are in New York City. If you are in Washington Square, air quality might be pretty good, but it might be that if you move a few blocks to go on Broadway, air quality is poor. You have a pollution hotspots, which is quite dangerous for people's health. And the thing is, unless you have an air quality monitor on Broadway itself, you're not going to detect timely that air pollution hotspot. You're not going to mitigate it effectively, and people's health are at risk. So the only way to monitor, manage, and mitigate air pollution is to have a very dense mesh of sensors, which can detect problems and hotspots very, very quickly. So you need what's called hyperlocal data. Hyperlocal data means having an awful lot of sensors in the city. So how do you deploy a very large amount of sensors in a city in a cost-effective and quick way? Our solution is to decentralize, incentivize, and gamify the challenge, the air quality monitoring. So to make a long story short, we engage local residents to help us deploy and manage IoT-enabled air quality sensor, which will stream data in real time to our platform and to the blockchain actually, and provide very, very real time and very, very useful information. And we reward people for helping us in this endeavor with utility tokens issued in the Algorand blockchain. So in our word, sensing is mining. So you can earn Planet tokens in return for the data streams that we collect, useful data streams. So far, so good. Nothing to do with NFTs, right? So just a few more words about our project. So as I anticipated, we are based on the Algorand blockchain. So why Algorand? Well, to begin with, Algorand is not only a very innovative, very decentralized, very secure, very scalable blockchain. It's also a green blockchain in the sense that its innovative consensus mechanism, which is pure proof of stake, consumes very little energy as compared to proof of work blockchains, for example, Ethereum, right? So it's a green blockchain in the sense of energy consumption, and it's also a high performance, great specs blockchain. So that's where we are, and that's where we want to be. So we are gaining quite a bit of traction with this project. We have over 400 connected sensors worldwide. So the ambition is really global. The project is very scalable, and we are scaling fast. So lots of sensors already deployed, lots of sensors in the pipeline. Over 42 million transactions posted already on the Algorand mainnet blockchain. So what do we post on the blockchain? So on one hand, we are writing air quality data onto the blockchain itself. So we are building the first global immutable ledger of air quality data as a service to mankind. So we build the ledger over time with the history of air quality data, high resolution air quality data worldwide. On the other hand, sure enough, each data stream which is tracked on the blockchain triggers a token reward. So talking about the token, the Planet token is already operational and it's going to be listed soon on a major exchange. We hope within, say, 6 weeks from now. So that's where we stand. And again, nothing about NFT yet. So let's introduce NFT because we are already using and deploying NFTs in our world for internal management reasons. So we are building a very large infrastructure, a very large network of sensors. And it turns out that a very efficient way to manage sensors across the network is to give them an NFT identity. So each sensor in our network is already linked to an NFT, which acts as a sensor ID. And I don't need to explain you why this is very efficient and very, very good. But again, we haven't talked about collectibles yet. And this meeting is about collectibles. So here we go, enter collectibles. So we are gonna issue green collectibles on the Algorand blockchain. So what do I mean by green? So on one hand, as I said, we mean green because the blockchain that powers our system, it's very energy effective and very environmentally friendly. The second reason, of course, that our mission is environmental monitoring. Collectibles to us are a way to add value and engagement to our community. So we are not rarible competitor or anything like that. The only collectibles that we'll be dealing with are environment-related collectibles that we leverage to create further engagement on our mission. So green. Okay, first of all, let me remind you that on the Algorand blockchain, transaction fees are very, very close to zero. So you can say you have no gas fees, and we all know that gas fees can be a challenge from the point of view of NFT trading. So this is solved by design. So what are we gonna do? Our roadmap is the following. First of all, we are coming to the end of a 6-month long, more or less, testing period There are lots of people who have been early adopters of PlanetWatch who have helped us test all the system in a very effective way. We want to thank them. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to drop free limited edition collectibles to all the people who have owned and operated a PlanetWatch sensor during this test period. And it's a few hundred people. It's close to 400. So there will be limited edition collectibles given for free to this community. After that, we are going to issue additional collectibles, obviously. Some of them could come for free. Free could be dropped to the community in special occasions. Some of them, of course, will be linked to premium content and will be sold, and proceeds from the sale will help us deploy our network even faster. So that's how we go. But the only collectibles from PlanetWatch will always be linked to environmental issues and challenges. So that's what we do. We do collectibles for the environment. So that's a call to action now, right? So if you are interested to showcase your piece of environmental art on the Algorand blockchain, issued on the Algorand blockchain, and leverage our community, please get in touch. You're very welcome. We are building up already an artist cohort. We have already a few people from Italy in particular who are very keen to create content for us. We will launch contests, and we will tokenize bits of environmental art and nice content for the community. So I'll stop here, leave 1 minute for questions, if any, and thank you very much for your time.
Claudio, there are actually a lot of questions coming in on the Zoom chat. Definitely answer some of those. And you have a big fan in the environmental world here. So
Good.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Claudio.
All right. So you heard it, CERN spinoff. I had to look a lot of things up, but there are NASA and CERN spinoffs for everybody if you want to look. These are really prestigious projects that come out of those programs. So next up, we have a presentation. Thank you, Claudio. Thank you for your time, and please stay and answer some of those questions inside of Zoom. You've got a lot. People love what you're working on, and you're very passionate about it. All right. So next presentation, we have Haniff from Tap Project. We're going to welcome you to the stage. You have 10 minutes for your presentation. We've spoken many times, Haniff. I'm excited to learn about your project and to share it on the NFT Global Conference stage. So you have 10 minutes. I'll give you a ding at the 1 minute and 30-second mark. I'm excited to learn more about you and your project.
You have quite the following too, Haniff. There is, I saw on Twitter when you posted about it, everyone was going crazy. So shout out to all the fans in here.
I appreciate that, Jeffrey and Ivan. Appreciate that. It's been a great little exchange here. So I appreciate jumping in today. So first off, I just like to say my name is Haniff Knight. I'm the co-founder of the Tap Project. And I'd like to truly thank everyone for coming to an event like this. As a gamer myself, this is absolutely amazing to see and see this disruption and eagerness for the NFT space. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to talk about who is better to understand NFT than gamers ourselves. So I'm going to talk about where I see blockchain gaming going, how NFTs play a role, and what we at the Tap Project are doing about it. First, let me just say I'm a huge gamer. I wouldn't be surprised if many of you who are listening are in the same boat as me, you know, blowing into that cartridge on the NES, the classic up, up, down, down, left, right. You know, you can say it, even though you're muted, you can say it with me, A, B, select, select, start. I was always enamored by the ability to be drawn into a world that was larger than my own. Playing games all my life has, you know, brought me to a point where I really wanted to make cool stuff in the space. This desire to just create something cool brought me down a deep rabbit hole of blockchain technology in hopes of a solution. After playing hundreds, if not thousands of games, it would begin to bug me as I would load old games and see they had millions of in-game assets and currency just sitting there. My character still had their amazing gear that I grinded for weeks and weeks on end, but it was just sitting there, stuck along with the experience. Why was this the case? So after a few days of gaming with my brother, this is kind of how our exact conversation went. Man, wouldn't it be crazy if you could transfer your in-game currency from one game to the next? He said, disappeared for a couple weeks and came back to me and said, actually, you see, there's this thing called Ethereum. And thus began the journey. I'm sure that probably resonates with some of you because you might have had the exact same conversation. Hey, there's this thing called X. For a gamer, we began solving issues around in-game currencies, being siloed from game to game, and truly just trying to find a way for me to actually take advantage of this and play as I love to do. I wanted to try and find a way for time and money to be rewarded along with the experience to be transferred regardless of the game you were playing. We met with hundreds of developers and realized that they were too having issues around creative ways to monetize their games and bring in innovative ways for development and user engagement. Why was this the case? It's not fair to gamers, it's not fair to developers, and it truly just stagnates the entire gaming industry on a whole. This spawned the TAP project and its intermediary coin, the TAP coin, TTT, a blockchain gaming vision that allows gamers to convert their in-game currency from one game to the next, while providing developers the ability to take advantage of untapped areas of gaming, scores, points, and currency. From 2018, our launch on Ethereum to present day, we have built Unity and Unreal plugins, Steam connectivity to allow gamers to convert all their games from Steam achievements to TAP coins, dabbled in game automated monitoring to help the esports tournament solutions. We truly found ourselves bridging the gap between traditional gaming and blockchain innovation as we sat right in the middle of a user experience and offered the hybrid approach to play, which is where we truly believe the mainstream spot is for gaming and NFTs. One of the issues that we're actually currently seeing right now to this day is as projects go around the world to seek to find solutions to individual problems, they're just creating new and independent blockchains. And this is actually only furthering the gap from where we believe blockchain technology and NFTs should be headed. And that is a true cross-chain experience that is not hindered by the blockchain you choose. This is turning clunky systems that require users to leave the experience of gaming and get into the rigidness of blockchain technology. We have seen what we believe are poor solutions that only truly complicate the issue with side chains and more, and just truly just more buttons to press. Why is this the case? By now, you might have seen where I'm going with this. Things do not have to be this way, and we've created a solution for them not to be. So how can we help all gamers, developers, and blockchainers push NFTs to a place that is really going to spawn creativity? No matter the chain, play the game. We see NFTs as a platform itself, with artists, developers, gamers, and creators leading the way as they dive into the created content. This is what we call NFT Anywhere. NFT Anywhere allows NFT assets to traverse multiple blockchains regardless of where it was created. This allows projects and users to move assets across multiple chains, facilitating the movement of true multiverse gaming and collecting. It's quite simple. With a few clicks, a user can transfer NFTs from across blockchains and keep its functions, design, structure, and data intact. Have an NFT that was created that includes IPFS info, transferred to another chain, and have that IPFS info maintained while received on that new blockchain. For me, this is actually where the true beauty of NFTs and gaming is. No longer is user forced to choose a blockchain simply because they're told to, but they have the ability to carry the NFTs with them as they play. Create an NFT on Ethereum, level it up on an Ethereum-based game, transfer it over to Binance or another chain for seat fees and upgrades, and then voila, later send it to Wax or an Atomic Marketplace for it to be sold. This is a true world of multiverse that is not restricted by the project themselves. As a way to gamify this, we're proving this multi-chain concept on our platform with a concept we call the Great NFT Hunt. It's a multi-chain collectible hunt that pits users against each other across multiple blockchains with one purpose in mind: collect them all, win it all. First to collect all the cards wins a prize that we'll call today $10,000 Decade prize. This brings gamified collecting in a way that makes every single NFT valuable to someone in the hunt. No longer will NFT goes unsold on Rarible, unsold on OpenSea, and just sit there. This makes every NFT from all the collections extremely valuable. Using our technology around packing and unpacking NFTs, marketplaces are able to also take advantage of the system and drop their NFTs into their current NFT vending programs, allowing new abilities for pack creation within a marketplace. So what's next for us? We're already on Ethereum network, and as we move towards pushing NFT adoption, we'll be rolling out our dedicated platform to Binance Smart Chain. We'll be introducing to Binance Smart Chain the first of its kind NFT integrated into traditional PC games. This will allow users to seamlessly play Steam integrated games, collect NFTs from unlocking achievements and in-game actions. Get that 1,000 kill Moab achievement, mint an exclusive Moab NFT, all the while the user has no clue that they're interacting with the blockchain. Are you a game completionist and have 100% trophies laying around everywhere? Mint those into exclusive NFT packs and trade them all together as your own. This truly just turns every user's game into an NPC shop waiting to be explored. That's not only it. These NFTs will be able to exist with one supply across multiple chains, to huge incentives for those who do world's first completion runs, or those raid groups or team groups. You'll be able to have the very first cross-chain world's first completion NFT. Combining the multi-chain approach, gaming and NFTs, we truly have the opportunity to not only change the way we play, way we earn, and truly expand into multiverse and one step closer to gamification. Join us as we break the barriers of blockchain that were never supposed to be put up. Join the hunt, teleport your NFT, collect, earn, win to a new level of gaming with Tapcoin. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Haniff. Well said. Very elegantly made. You bring me back to my old days. Those cartridges.
We're getting back there. I would love to just pop in my Mario and take all those scores out, eh?
Thanks, Hannah.
Thank you guys very much. Appreciate it. Thank you guys, everyone.
Okay.
All right. So again, you got a lot of questions, a lot of fans here as well. So definitely get those answered.
Definitely will do.
Thank you, Haniff. Thank you for your time. All right. So moving on, we have an exciting panel coming up. It's our Developer Ecosystems Mastermind panel. We'll be joined by John Jordan from DApp Radar, Maria Shen from Electric Capital, Morten Rogard from the Reality Gaming Group, Sebastian Bourget from the Sandbox, and Chris Arnold from Morgan Creek Capital. These are all very legitimate, very reputable people in this space. We're going to be taking the approach of looking at the developer ecosystems, which is powering a lot of which you just saw presented and also on the keynote. So welcome everybody.
Thank you.
Hi. Thank you. Good to be here.
Hello. Maria, I don't see you, but I hear everyone. I see everyone. Awesome.
Perfect. Hi, Maria.
Hi,
and
nice
Maria,
to meet you.
would love for you to kick it off. You write a very good developer report that I'm a big fan of. And yeah, would love to unpack some of the topics and questions that that you sent over to us.
Yeah, thank you. So, I guess quick introduction. My name is Maria Shen. I work at a crypto-focused firm called Electric Capital based in San Francisco. One of the things that we've kind of done internally, and this is kind of because our firm is formed by serial entrepreneurs, all of us on the investment team are former operators, and everyone has an engineering background. We've built a lot of stuff in-house. One of the things we've done is effectively crawled the entirety of GitHub and mapped each repository, of course, open source repositories only, open source repository to their corresponding crypto ecosystem to understand, how many developers are in Ethereum, how many developers are in Bitcoin, et cetera. We published this report back in December 2020. One of the really fascinating things I would say is that since, developers come in during the bull run, and a lot of the times they will stay through the bear market as well, and that's definitely something that we've seen. Starting in basically 2019, we've seen an increase of developers coming in, new developers that haven't touched crypto before ever, coming into the space, joining the space, and then kind of staying for the long term. So that's been super exciting. We haven't run the numbers yet for, since kind of NFTs hit the mainstream recently, but I'm sure that's definitely brought in a bunch of new developers as well.
We'd love to hear. So John, Jordan, if everyone could just quickly introduce yourself, but John, I know you're looking at a similar space because you look at a lot of the data.
Sure, yeah. Hi, I'm John. I've been in my background's gaming. So I've been in gaming for about 20 years, blockchain for about 3. So I'm particularly focused really on the interaction between the kind of games industry and how kind of blockchain interacts with that. At DappRadar, DappRadar is a kind of analytical sort of platform, discovery platform, where we track, getting on for 20 blockchains now. We track all the dApps on them, and we provide sort of data about kind of usage models. So that's across all different blockchains and all different types of dApps. So last year mainly DeFi. This year obviously changed a little bit to kind of covering the NFT space and how that kind of comes into games and marketplaces.
Morten and Chris, we love an introduction from you two, and then we'll jump into some of the topics that we have from the community.
Yeah, no, great. I'm definitely an outsider probably in the group. Morgan Creek, we're essentially traditional investors that have now been investing in the space for about 3.5 years. So, the challenge for me is to sort of understand how we can, bridge these, what I believe, amazing technologies and opportunities, into the sort of the non-initiated outside world of investors. So, that's always sort of my view. So this is probably mostly learning for me. But again, to, look at those applications that, might be, sort of great opportunities within the ecosystem, and, how we can, bring those ideas to a broader investor community, obviously bringing funding, needed funding to the space.
Yeah, and I can continue. My name is Morten Rundgaard. I'm the CEO of Reality Gaming Group, which currently just working on the big BBC Doctor Who Worlds Apart game. So creating that whole economy ecosystem and just, yeah. So that's currently what I'm working on. So besides, we have other titles, but everybody knows the BBC we're working on right now, which is super exciting. So yeah.
Thank you, Morten. Thank you, Chris. So jumping into the first topic, we'd love to kick it off with John, because this is a constantly asked topic, and everybody wants to know, especially these developer ecosystems that are growing, like Polkastarter, Ethereum with Consensus. There are a lot of support for developers. Wanted to hear from you, because you look at a lot of this data: Ethereum, Cosmos, Polkadot. What's on the horizon, and what is your favorite and why? Oh, I think you're muted.
Sorry, I say that would be annoying all the other people, wouldn't it? If I said my favorite. I think there's some things we can kind of learn, I guess, kind of historically. I guess a year ago we were basically looking at sort of probably 3 main kind of smart contract blockchains that allowed you to build sort of a kind of dApps on there. I mean, there were a lot more out there, but there were 3 with some sort of volume. So we had Ethereum, and we had Tron, and we had EOS. And I guess to a degree Wax, which is sort of a version of EOS, and they sort of had their strengths and weaknesses. Some people like one over the other. It wasn't necessarily very clear which was the kind of the leader there. And then you kind of, it seems a long time ago now. This time last year, sort of DeFi bloomed, and kind of that happened on Ethereum for lots of different reasons. It potentially could have happened on some of these other chains. So obviously, technically, Ethereum was not the sort of, in some ways, kind of transaction-wise, it was not the best blockchain for that to happen on. So we have all these problems with scalability now. But the kind of, there was the technical aspects of the blockchain, and then there was the kind of developer community. And there's sort of 2 things I think sort of go hand in hand. And I think it's fairly easy these days to build a technically good blockchain that does the things you want it to do. It's much harder to get a developer community, because we saw with Tron and EOS to a degree, they were kind of sort of paying developers to kind of use our blockchain, and that can kind of kickstart something. But I think what we see now is that attitude was not didn't scale. And so I think the big challenge for me, when I look at all these different blockchains that are launching now in 2021 and trying to get scale, is technically they all look great. So I'm not a coder. I can't go in and say, you know, particular kind of choose this one has like, you know, a 1% better efficiency in some way. But generally you can look at, you know, what developers are they attracting? Why are they attracting that? Is it because the developers are being paid? And most developers, most of these blockchains will have some sort of, you know, developer community fund to kind of get things up and running. But really you kind of are looking at, you know, what sort of users are there? Are they spending money, or are they just kind of doing cheap transactions? How's the kind of network effect going to kick into these blockchains? The more complicated thing now that we're starting to see now is clearly that we have all these bridging technologies. So Ethereum clearly is very slow and very expensive, but has tons, you know, $50 billion of kind of token value locked into it. So we're obviously seeing all these new blockchains, you know, Solana, Near, Harmony, Binance Smart Chain, all looking to kind of try and bridge that value over. And that's obviously worked well for Binance Smart Chain in the DeFi space. We're kind of seeing similar things. In the long term, we have, you know, Polkadot Cosmos, this kind of idea that everything's sort of interconnected. That kind of makes sense in a sort of a visionary aspect, but obviously incredibly complicated to deal with all those chains, and that's a long way off. And I guess ETH too, you know, similar sort of thing. So I think in 2020,
oh no,
that's too fast.
That was great. And actually, speaking of ETH, Sebastian just joined in. I know Sebastian's very involved in ETH and wanted to hear a second thought on that. Sebastian, if you can introduce yourself and kind of elaborate on that thought that John definitely kicked off there.
Yes, hi everyone. Glad to be here with you tonight. So I'm the co-founder and CEO of the Sandbox, which is a gaming virtual world that's built on the Ethereum blockchain that enables creators and users to make their own 3D asset or game experience and monetize them through the use of NFTs, as well as utility token Sand. We've been in the space for, I believe we are one of the pioneers in the space. We started at the end of CryptoKitties, and as soon as we saw CryptoKitties and CryptoPunks, we immediately thought of applying the technology of NFTs, not just for creating virtual cards or other collectibles, but to apply it for user-generated content, since the origin of our IP franchise Sandbox came back to mobile. We started that game 10 years ago, and we had millions of creators contributing content. All that content that was playable was actually the main reason of the success of our game that generated more than 40 million installs at peak. And we had literally no way to reward the users, to give them the ownership of their creation, or to incentivize as part of the contribution they made to the success of the platform. So with the use of NFTs now, we've been building the Sandbox for 3 years. We've been releasing creation tools. We've been releasing lands as part of our virtual world, and I've had successful land sale. Today I've launched our marketplace in beta. It's been pretty successful as well. And beside that, I'm also the president of the Blockchain Game Alliance, which is a nonprofit organization that regroups now about 200 companies, all actively promoting the adoption of blockchain technology within the gaming industry. And so that gives me, like, I would say, a wide view on the ecosystem, not just Ethereum. Of course, we've been building on Ethereum because for the very reason that John mentioned, we started 3 years ago. Back then, Ethereum was the blockchain with the largest developer community and the one that with the most support, the most ecosystem of solution behind, like Infura and other IPFS solution to facilitate the development and all the things that you need as you build your dApp and services. We've been also contributing to the ERC 1155 standards, which is an improvement over the original ERC 721 for NFTs. But what I'm seeing in 2021 is not necessarily what I saw back then when Tron and other blockchain appeared, like Flow, Binance Chain, and now some layer 2 like Immutable X, for example. They are coming along, and they are coming along with leading dApps that already have users. And so they use those products with large user base, large still being relative in our space, but I would say among the largest user base. And they are offering advantages that translate very easily into the user experience. And the main behind what we're seeing is like product like NBA Top Shots have a large amount of users, a large amount of transaction thanks to that. So there's definitely a correlation. And I think one of the main takeaway of 2021 is like NFTs, it's the year of the NFTs, but it's no longer the year of NFTs on the Ethereum blockchain. There's many things in place. There are bridges of value moving along all those different places. And the picture is more blurry, whether it's going to be on one chain only winner or there's more. And it's great because for developers, for other companies entering the space, there's more solution available to look at. But it doesn't mean that there is a one chain fits all type of solution. Some of them do not support smart contracts. Some of them do not support certain type of wallet or ERC-1155. So it's not necessarily easy to migrate to all of them, but definitely, I think it's definitely a different picture than 3 years ago in the space.
Oh, and I know, John, you touched upon bridges as well. Morten, I know you raised your hand. Anything to add there?
No, yeah, but it's exactly, you know, I am a strong believer in Ethereum, right? You know, I know we've seen a lot, you know, I truly believe in Ethereum also in the long run, especially with Ethereum 2.0. But I'm also, you know, I've seen some, you know, I've been part like John knows, like, and Sebastian from the beginning. So we've seen this whole thing with Tron, EOS, and we will see the same thing. So I honestly believe that Ethereum will be the backbone and we will see new things, you know, just come from that. I see near protocol. I actually like, I talk to these guys, I've seen them. I really like what they're doing. And I think what we will have to see is that the environment and a green solution kind of chain is what also will mean a lot to people in the future. How can we actually making sure that these NFTs, all the work we are doing on chain, also have a green impact? So that it, or at least a green footprint, right? So I think that is something we really need to look at. So I fully agree, but I'm a strong believer in Ethereum, no matter what. But it's always good with competitions like Sebastian is saying.
Maria, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to echo the thought about, you know, there's kind of an interesting opening right now where with gas fees as they are, it makes sense if you're trying to sell, you know, $1 million NFT, if you have a very high value item you're trying to transact, but it's really locking out a lot of the transactions that are, you know, maybe something like sub 100 or sub $50, where and this is where a lot of game transactions can come in. And so I think there's this really interesting opening right now in both layer 2s and in layer 1s. Morten mentioned Near protocol. Near certainly, I mean, just based on the developer report, is, you know, one of the fastest growing chains in terms of developers, super low transaction fees, and so they're starting to gather an NFT community there. And you know, certainly we're kind of seeing this across different chains like Binance Smart Chain as well. But you know, I think one of the really interesting things to consider for game developers is not only just transaction fees, which is you know the first thing. You know, how can I enable my smaller transactions, and how can I have a really smooth user experience for my users? But also, you know, integration with decentralized finance, I think, will be a really big unlock for NFTs. Thinking about how do I make my in-game assets actually productive? You know, now that I have this this parcel of land, or now that I have this really rare item, can I actually earn interest on it? Can I trade it freely? Can I fractionalize it? And then, you know, can that be owned by a DAO? I think all of these things really open up the amazing capabilities that certainly teams have started exploring. You know, Axie Infinity is exploring some stuff there. There's definitely games looking through kind of how do we incorporate DeFi, but we're just in the very beginning, and I think that's a really interesting thing to explore.
Thanks, Maria. Let's go to Morten and then Sebastian.
Yeah, no, fully agree, Maria, because, you know, one of the things we're doing right now is, especially with the NFTs and especially with BBC, we are exploring that whole thing. How can you stake your NFTs and then earn an interest on them? And how can you lend them out? This is what we will do with our NFTs, especially with the BBC. And also we are working on our company token together with Binance, and also making sure that how can you earn interest? How can you lend it out? How can you make players actually, if you are owning all these NFTs, but don't have the time to play, how can you lend them out on a lease contract to somebody who can play with them? They can sell them and you can share the revenue, and all will be handled by smart contracts. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to wait 45 days. You can just cash out on a button when you want to have the revenue sent to your wallet or whatever it is, right? So I think this is where we truly will see the mass adoption with the NFTs and blockchain in general. And I am a massive, just, you know, what we see right now is the DeFi and the gaming blockchain bridging together. You know, before that, you know, since 2017, we've seen like financial running on blockchain one side, crypto, and then the gaming with the blockchain on the other hand. And now suddenly they're actually moving closer and closer together. And DeFi is that bridge in between. And then we will see all these amazing projects. I think so.
Go ahead, Sebastian.
Yes, I'd like to add to that, like essentially the addition of all these incentive, financial incentive with DeFi and NFTs is really interesting. And it's an additional meta game layer. Like you can play the core game and be engaged like TCG, etc. But you can also do action that will actually, for example, staking the native token of a certain game to receive NFTs as reward. And you can do that in ways like NFTs as really the low-hanging fruit to attract users. So you can do like, if you combine two projects and you stake the token of those two projects, then you enter a competition and you win not just an APY on that, but you actually win exclusive NFT you couldn't obtain otherwise. And those NFTs then, because they are potentially very useful for the gameplay of either product or very rare, they will flow back into marketplaces, be desirable by the users, and create an economy. As Morten mentioned, like renting of NFTs, I think there's a very active working group at the BGA working on it. With land, virtual land and NFT, it makes just sense. You can rent your land when you want to publish their game, turn on a business on it, etc. So I'm very bullish as well on like how all the ecosystem that can be built on top of those digital assets to open this digital economy. We're seeing guilds, player guilds like community gaming, where they are training people, players around the world to play games, to collect reward, and then they split the total rewards pool among the member of the guild, depending on how much they contributed of time, etc. And so it's always the idea like community should win at the end. Like not, you can do more and you can earn more than being a whole community, sharing effort than just alone, and apply it to gamification. I really find it fantastic.
Great insights. And actually, so John, I wanted to ask you because Dap Radar has been watching these trends for a very long time. What have you seen change from your perspective?
I'm actually going to backtrack a little bit and sort of duck that question. But there's one thing I do think that is interesting, and I do think we're starting to see already that as kind of has been mentioned, there's going to be lots of blockchains. There's sort of going to be connections together. But I think every blockchain, and this may just be my sort of slightly kind of poetic way of thinking, but every blockchain to me sort of has its own kind of characteristic. And that may be to do with the dApps that are on there, and it may be to do with the users and geographically where they are and how they want to kind of use these blockchains. But I would say, like, particularly today, so Dapper Labs has just announced $300 million of funding. Clearly, the Flow blockchain, to me, we've been tracking that on Dap Radar for a few months now. I mean, that's the big news of 2021, really, in the blockchain space. So Dapper Labs, the people behind CryptoKitties, invented their own blockchain called Flow. No one knew if it was going to work or not. It's very innovative in terms of how it works. Not that that matters. They launched this DApp, a collectible sort of a project, NBA Top Shop, did nothing for about 4 months, and then this year has done like $500 million of trading between owners of cards in like 3 months. So I don't think anyone, certainly Dapper Labs, didn't expect that to happen. So Dapper Labs for me, you asked me about favorites before. I mean, it's not like a favorite, but I think in 2021 it's hard to argue against the Flow blockchain as being the first blockchain to sort of go mass market. It doesn't really mention it's a blockchain. People just like collecting basketball videos on there. There's already hundreds of projects in development for that Flow blockchain. Not really clear when they're coming out, or probably this year, I imagine. But there's going to be like tons of stuff on the Flow blockchain. Now, why would developers want to do that? Well, one, obviously, it's proven to be a success. Equally, there's about $1.5 billion of value locked into the NBA Top Shop DApp. So as people start trading those out, maybe they'll cash it out to their bank account. Maybe they'll keep some in. So any new game or any new kind of collectible coming on into the Flow blockchain already has, hundreds of thousands of people who've already made, some of them, quite a lot of money, and they'll be looking to kind of what new things can I do. So So I think kind of the Flow blockchain is interesting in the sense that it's sort of very low barriers to entry to users. I don't know what it's like on the developer side. I imagine it's pretty okay, but it's kind of got momentum and sort of, so, games and entertainment kind of dApps will launch on there. Now the question that kind of we were just talking about was kind of how DeFi would fit into that. Now I would kind of, while you can run DeFi dApps on Flow, I'm sure people will try and do it. To me, it doesn't sort of yet have, and will be hard, I think, to have that characteristic where you're into DeFi, because DeFi is like a bit boring. It's about banking, it's about collateral, it's about liquidation. It's, people on the Flow blockchain are just like, oh, I'm collecting basketball players. I've just made $1,000. So while you could do DeFi on there, I don't think you are going to do DeFi on there, or not for a long time. So the DeFi stuff, while I think is fascinating, is definitely going to sit more on the Ethereum side. And that, for me, I guess this year is where Ethereum, sort of maintains its kind of primary value. It has so much kind of value, token value locked into there. And the people who have done that have gone through the DeFi. They know how to collateralize. They know how to fractionalize. Uniswap version 3 is going to allow basically liquidity pool tokens to be NFTs. I mean, that's a whole conference in itself. I mean, I think that's really massive news.
Ethereum is definitely one of the biggest one in the room, but there are a lot of other ones out there, and actually I wanted to bring it over to you, Chris, and like what are you saying just listening to this conversation, and just from the ecosystems behind these projects?
It's I have a couple of questions, but it's really interesting in that people that I work with regularly see this business through the thick lens of Bitcoin and maybe Ethereum. And that's how, that's really where, let's call it, as far as you're concerned, it's the stupid money, right? But from an institutional perspective, it's the smart money. So for me, it's always trying to figure out where that bridge will be. I'm always fascinated to hear what people within the system, as I would say, you guys all, participate within the system, what you're creating and developing just through your, own, history, background, interest, entertainment, issue, whatever. I mean, it's very organic, listening to me, it's probably like saying, yeah, what's the point? The point for me is, everyone I talk to that is interested in being engaged, is excited. I would say that. And I just think if there were a broader set of, maybe let's say intermediaries, could be an exchange is an intermediary, really. That's how I look at it. It basically brings investors to these projects and opportunities. But there are some really good, what I would say, sites out there that do an excellent job of identifying, these projects. That type of thing I think is necessary because, back to it, I personally don't believe that this is an end-all Bitcoin Ethereum thing. I think it's exactly what you're talking about, finding applications. But I guess my question is, we're really talking a lot about arts and entertainment as being, sort of the platform. I would say 2 or 3 years ago, we were talking about, smart contracts and, splitting up a real estate holding into, multitude of, owners. Where, maybe just to ask you, where would you see, that application going from sort of the arts and entertainment world into maybe more of a business or a true, pure traditional finance, sort of role? I obviously lending, we know what that's doing. But are there any other areas that you see that might be stepping outside of arts and entertainment into, more of a traditional, finance type of application for NFTs?
We are running into the final 4 or 5 minutes. If anybody wants to unpack that, we have room for 2 or 3 responses.
I'll try and be very quick because I waffle. But as I've just mentioned, that there's so Uniswap is the biggest decentralized exchange, certainly on Ethereum, and it's just announcing it's got a version 3 coming out in the 5th of May, and that's basically that's going to use NFTs to effectively be trading strategies across different tokens. Now it's really quite complex. I wouldn't say I fully understand it. I would definitely say kind of check it out. But basically, in that case, what people will be able to do will be able to sell like an $1,000 NFT, which is a trading strategy between 2 different tokens, and will have passive fees that will be generated as long as the Ethereum blockchain is around from the trading fees that are swapped into that token. So I mean, I'm probably a bit of a sort of radical revolutionary. I mean, I kind of think that kind of DeFi will eat traditional financing extremely quickly. The only thing that would stop that will be legislation, I think. I mean, I just think that the power of these this kind of computerized money is quite staggering, frankly.
Thanks, John. Those are some good insights. Anybody else want to tackle that one? Maria, Sebastian, Morten?
I think we're still very far from having seen everything that's possible in the space of just art or entertainment. Like those are really deep fields. This year, we are March, or let's say we are April, just 3 months, and we are seeing like crypto art has been booming with people and selling this $69 million image. We've seen sport collectible, essentially with SuperRare and NBA Top Shots leading the pack among the product. But we haven't seen yet a huge gaming NFT yet, I think. Like there's still a lot of potential behind. And that's the category I'm the most excited about, because that's the category of NFTs that offers the most utility behind. The two other before are essentially collectible or aesthetic, pure value that are more like subjective, I would say. But with gaming and utility, the potential behind is essentially the play to earn, the capacity to have players create jobs from playing and really transform the whole industry behind of the video games. That's one area, and that will go into by the finance, like the way like you're going to approach your choice as you play games. Like, hey, do I buy this item because then my return on investment with this word, I will kill enemy twice faster, so I can earn the reward twice faster. So it's a better economical choice, and that's how I think we are going to train the next generation of players, educate them to finance through gaming, through NFTs. That's a very exciting use case.
Very interesting, Sebastian. Let's go to Maria. Let's close it out. What final remarks from you?
Yeah, I think the way that I think about it is that, the innovation of Bitcoin, of cryptocurrency in general, is this representation of money as actual digital bits. This idea that you don't actually have to have an IOU from the government, and you don't have to have an IOU as the bank and have these numbers kind of represented in a spreadsheet, right? The actual numbers that you see in your wallet, that is the money itself. And so I think it makes sense to me that the first use cases of these, this, now that we have digital bits as money, is going to be kind of a crypto native sort of financial infrastructure. So it's going to be lending cryptocurrencies. It's going to be creating derivatives on top of cryptocurrencies. And so for me, it feels like this is a core series of financial primitives, and that NFTs can now plug into. So it's the idea that you're growing a new economy. You can't grow this economy on top of nothing. It has to kind of grow on top of a set of financial protocols, and that's kind of what we've created. I certainly see NFTs and DeFi kind of moving into the physical world as well, but it makes sense that the first step is still utilizing this, this digital world and kind of operating within this digital world, given that the core unlock for me with Bitcoin is just all of a sudden these numbers are money itself, right? But it's not a representation of money. Like this is what you own. So I think this is going to be, this makes sense as the starting point of the evolution.
Maria, thank you for that insight. I wanted to thank everybody for joining this panel, for your insights. You guys can keep chatting in our private Slack. We'll send that over to everyone, but also feel free to stick around. A lot of questions are being asked inside of the Zoom chat. So thank you for your time, speakers. Thank you so much. We'll be shifting over to the next panel topic, which is beyond NFTs and the future use cases of NFTs. And we have Christian from Sustiny Capital, Vanessa from Consensus, Ben Horden from Blockade Games. We have Roy from Tron and Dirk from Upland. These are all projects that you've definitely seen on the news, but we want to hear from them. What are those future use cases? What comes after? We've talked a lot about the developer ecosystems, and looking into the future is where we want to take this. Well, welcome, Christian. Welcome, Vanessa.
Christian, would love for you to kick it off. I know that we've spoke quite a bit, and I know you shared a great article, NFTs real world use case supply chain. I mean, should we go around first with a quick introduction from everybody and then unpack that?
Yep. Let's go around in a room and just a quick introduction, and we'll go right into Christian.
Perfect.
Okay, ladies first, I'd say. right, I'll start.
Vanessa.
I'm an executive director at Consensus, where I head up our partnership channels and alliances. I've been at Consensus for 4.5 years now. And prior to that, I was in financial services, but I've always been very involved in our NFT initiatives.
Thank you, Vanessa. All right, let's go to Christian. You can introduce yourself next.
Yeah, I'm one of the 3 managing partners here at Sasini Capital. We founded the Ethereum meetups here in Orange County at the beginning or before the Ethereum ICO. So we've been looking at the NFT topic since it emerged out of the original hackathon in October 2017. And yeah, we're an investor in the space. We have been in multi-massive online player games for some 20 years before that. So yeah, I'm going to let the others introduce themselves. There's too much to talk about.
Dirk,
I'm just going to pick
let's
someone.
have you go next. Dirk?
Oh, okay.
Perfect.
Hi.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't hear it. Okay. Hi, my name is Dirk. I'm the co-founder or one of the co-founders of Upland Me, which is actually the Earth's metaverse. Basically, it sits on top of the real world. We're currently live for the cities of San Francisco, New York. We are, let's say, you think about, we got inspired by the game Monopoly. So you get an idea how it works. You can personally purchase land or based on actual addresses. And we have a couple of game engagement points in there, but people eventually will be able to earn in Upland. That means they can sell when they purchase a property, virtual properties to other players. Soon also NFTs from any other blockchain. We're going to introduce NFT portal, how we call it, and then eventually people will be able to socialize. This month has been crazy, like for all of us. I assume we're going to reach almost 100,000 monthly active users, which makes us actually the largest game out there at the moment.
Congratulations, Dirk. Big fans of Upland. Roy, would love to have you go next.
Sure. Hey guys, nice to meet you guys here virtually. And my name is Roy. I work for Tron. I'm heading everything Tron's business and global marketing. So Tron's being very aggressive for NFT, as you may know, but we really believe in the industry. I do see that there's a lot of opportunities in this space. And I myself, I've been in the consumer internet entertainment for over a decade before my life in crypto. So for me, it's the perfect timing. It's super exciting with the DeFi, with NFT happening and finally get to the mainstream where, we're looking forward to work with the different capitals and the different developers to take the blockchain, flip NFTs to the next stage.
Benjamin, would love to have you go next.
Hey everyone, I'm Ben. I'm the CTO and co-founder of Blockade Games. We make a game called Neon District. We were also the creator of the first free-to-play blockchain game back in 2019 called Plasma Bears. We are working right now to make a cyberpunk role-playing game, and we want to bring everyone in who may have never used cryptocurrency before, who particularly for gamers, to come in and basically learn how to start collecting blockchain assets and yeah. Sorry, a little nervous. It's been a while since I've been on a panel. You can see the pandemic washing over me, right?
Great, Benjamin. Let your work speak for itself. So big fan. So yeah, Christian, would love to kick it over to you and kind of talk through the future of NFTs and use cases.
Okay, as you know, you have to stop me if I go too long, right? Because I typically give hour-long speeches on these topics. So yeah, I mean, we are super excited, obviously, about the whole in-game story, but then personally, I'm also as excited about real-world implementations, right? Because in my mind, it's kind of an obvious observation that we will have every physical thing being born on a blockchain first. And so in our local meetups here, we made this example of a wine bottle 3 years ago. So you can imagine if you have a vineyard and they produce 100,000 wine bottles every year, it'd be awesome for them to just create those NFTs per bottle first and create the market first. And then after you create it, you can then either trade it in a secondary market and or accept the actual physical delivery of that good. But then more importantly, I think Once you have cross-chain implementation where you can append metadata to these physical items or to the digital clone of the physical item, then you can track things such as, was this bottle always treated correctly, or was it exposed to heat or something else that will make it unusable for the recipient? And then at the end of the day, I envision a scenario where when you buy something at a store, and the point of sale system will actually send over to you the digital clone with all the metadata that this digital clone collected for your physical item over its supply chain journey, right? And I think there's a lot of very obvious implementations and use cases for NFTs, including things like physical paper. So I'm using this Rocketbook thing, which is a simple kind of plastic book with a QR code and an app, and it scans those and then sends it to preset locations. And you can simply create apps like that with NFTs that you can imagine will have a whole lot of use cases. Think about things where you're shipping something and you want to know that the original document for the bill of lading was created by a certain person on a certain day, and you can attach that as metadata. That provides a lot of utility for people that currently have to literally sort through stacks and stacks of papers. Anyway, I'll stop myself here, Jeff. As you know, I can go a long time.
Yeah, no problem. And for the other panelists, feel free to raise your hand and engage in the conversation. And otherwise, just kind of volunteer some of our panelists that are experts on this. Benjamin, we'd love to have you go next.
Awesome. Yeah, I wanted to actually kind of like go on that metadata conversation, and that is the metadata on chain is actually a really big thing right now. So a lot of people are talking about with art being minted, and that is the primary use case that people are focused on right now, is NFTs as art. But there are some people, some proponents in the NFT space, notably Jimmy from Avastars, who is focused heavily on the idea of, well, what happens to the metadata over a long period of time? So there are ways to kind of address that problem. You can put the metadata directly on chain, but how does that scale, right? I mean, it's incredibly expensive to do that right now for Ethereum, but is that, in some cases, the most important thing you can do for something that needs to sustain its value for 50, 100 years? Because, and this, to put into perspective, my theory is that for blockchains, it is going to be the longest running system on the internet, and eventually possibly in humankind, effectively, where you can actually trace without any dispute, any doubt, the origin of something all the way to the current present time. So the concept of metadata is exceptionally important. The concept of being able to preserve that metadata and prove that metadata is also incredibly important.
Those are very insightful things, and even could span past time. Vanessa, I'd love to hear from you because you focus on similar things on the Ethereum blockchain.
Sure. Thank you so much. So I think there's various components of NFTs, and just to set the scene, I think there are digitally native objects and things that are recorded on the blockchain and can be recorded as NFTs. And then, as Christian alluded to, you have physical goods which need to be tagged to the blockchain and receive a digital twin for the representation of the ownership or the existence of the object. And I think we're very focused on both things at Consensus. We manage consortia in the luxury goods world with LVMH, where luxury good items are tagged and recorded on the blockchain. And this is in the private instance of a blockchain with the possibility to connect also to the Ethereum blockchain. And then we just launched a side chain called Palm for artists, and again, a platform for everyone to build on. So I think what's interesting in the development of the NFT space, and we've seen it so much focused on the art, is that it's going to expand, right? It started fairly early on with almost crypto art, crypto kitties and gaming. And then it sort of expands now to other forms of art, bringing in, you know, traditional arts that is digitized or native digital art also, but with a more traditional audience who is excited about that and capturing almost a moment in time. And this is really what art is. And so I think, you know, the subject of this discussion is, what does the future look like? I think we'll see a convergence of private blockchains and public blockchains. We'll see interoperability between the different platforms, because I think that's one of the limitations that we see right now. I think it's going to be easier on Ethereum, but it needs to happen so that you can buy and sell indifferently from one platform to another, and have a more fluid and better, you know, client experience for people who buy art or buy NFTs overall. And I think we'll see a diversification of what an NFT is, and a diversification of what owning an NFT means, right? Because it means different things for different people. You know, you have your gaming gurus here, so I won't get into the gaming space, but I think it's a very exciting and dynamic future that we'll see.
Thanks, Vanessa. It's really interesting to hear that kind of where it's going to evolve. I'd like to bring it over to Roy, because I know Tron just recently announced the NFT fund, which focuses on converting those auction arts to NFTs, which is kind of the evolution of where we're transitioning.
Yeah. We've been working with a lot of the talents in the space, to move that forward. We've been bidding for people's everyday piece during Christie's. We won the bid for people's art recently as well, for the charity. The way we see that is, this is a very this whole industry is the infant stage, and just touch about a bit on the ETH side. We see a lot of innovation on ETH, but also like we see the future is definitely cross chain for various reasons, for efficiency, as well as for the capital that sits on the number of assets that sits on various chains, right? And at the end of the day, again, this is not the blockchain layer one argument conversation, but where I'm coming in is really about NFT is just a representation of digital property. It's just like owning a Tesla. It doesn't matter. Is it made in China? Is it made in the US? It's just made by Tesla. Same with Apple. So it's even more so for a digital property like NFT. So it doesn't, end of the day, it's a signature. It doesn't matter which chain it lives. It's just a sign of ownership, period. So I think, you know, whichever, so on the layer one side, they just need a better job to provide the infra, or if not, like take it off a notch by providing additional features. But end of the day, it's down to the fundamentals where the community, the buyers market versus sellers market, and I know we were talking about art. It's just the very beginning, because this somehow people can visually understand NFT, what it is, and put it like in a conceptual wise, making sense. But end of the day, that thing can go way beyond art. To be fair, is anything property lives on the blockchain, and the way I see that NFC phenomenon, like this morning, I'm on the West Coast, is 12 almost 12 p.m. right now. I already got like 7 different meetings, people paying about NFTs. The demand is coming from artists, coming from the musicians, coming from everywhere. It's coming all together. The opportunity is huge beyond us. So I do see there's a huge opportunity for people to work together. That's one end. And the second end is like a more practical, is NFT as a one. Right now, people see it as one piece of art. I never see that way. As in, it's not a one piece. It could be, as a crypto, it could be definitely be fractionalized, and it can be made as synthetics. And it's definitely going to be the trend to be. I mean, if people don't think about it right now, because coming from a traditional perspective, a traditional consumer perspective, as a ownership of certain property, But look, I mean, for majority of people, they cannot afford a people's everyday piece, right? But if you tokenize a question like that, it could be more than interesting for an editor to have a piece of that to participate, to pass on to families for whatever collateralization purposes, financial products. And I can definitely see that's the future to go. It's just a matter of what kind of products and features can come together around fractionalization of NFT pieces. If not, like a synthetics wise, to put into wrapper around the wrapper around wrapper. These are more like a infra level, but wrap around the consumer use cases. I see that's definitely something happening right around the corner.
I'd love to hear from the, thank you, Roy. I'd love to hear from the other panelists. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think long-term, most of the value is going to be created in the on and offboarding of real-world assets, really. So we've seen research reports where by 2023, we expect about 2 trillion of assets to be tracked using the blockchain. And so if it's going to be tracked, well, you somehow need to onboard it first, right? So you need to create the physical implementations. And there's traditionally like 2 things. So either you can develop the appropriate IoT hardware oracles that provide you with that data, or you need to create some form of attestation mechanism, i.e. that's a particular individual that has the qualification to actually certify that this particular item has these particular facilities and is on its way, so to speak. And so that's why there's unlimited opportunities for developers right now to build these solutions, right? So wherever you look, whenever I go to the store, I think, okay, this item, the POS system, etc., it should carry all this information, right, with you. Or every item that you have at your house right now, it should have an NFT clone to it. So at its inception, however, right? That's where the long-term relevance of the technology is. And the other part, and the colleague alluded to that, is the composability. So the example that I sent around earlier, we actually baked in Eng coins at the time. So at the time when I baked in, well, actually my colleague baked in the Eng coin into that NFT that I sent around, it was worth 2 cents or something. And now it's significantly worth more. And so the composability is actually almost a more interesting part, because just a 721 is just one single entry on a blockchain, and you need to create those platforms to facilitate any of the character characteristics, right? So any shape, form, colors, and so forth. So at the moment, people just kind of decentralize the storage of those PNGs. Well, that has limited long-term value if you think about it. If and when the platform that, let's say, the game lives on goes away, you still have no utility for your in-game character outside of like a secondary market value, but it's probably going to be diminished if the platform that it actually had these functions on no longer exists. So we have a long way to go to make these functional, and it's very hard to do this on current blockchains, obviously, because they're just very slow at the moment.
Benjamin, what do you have to add to that? Also, Roy, you're getting some questions from the community. Feel free to answer it in the Q&A, and then we'll get to you next, Dirk.
Sure.
I wanted to follow up on the conversation of L2s and sidechains and whatnot, and also to harken on what Christian just said about about how there are physical objects that are also tied to digital objects as well. So there's definitely different levels of importance to the data that you're storing on chain that has to do with an NFT, right? In the case of the supply side dynamics, where you have an object you want to track where it's in the on its way to shipping, or you want to track who owns a certain painting for a certain period of time, there are some pieces of information that are not necessary to be permanently stored on the highest, like most fundamental level of the chain. But that's where it's great to have L2s come in. That's where you can like take this temporal data that really only matters for a year or two, maybe even for a few weeks. You can store all of that on like a roll-up. You can store all of that on another side chain, but then eventually you want to wrap all that up into a proof, and you want to put that on the main chain, because there needs to be some fundamental secure chain that basically provides a base layer of security for everything given a certain period of time where you eventually do put that proof on chain. So there is definitely there's a place for every one of these different chains. All these different L2s, there's a place for Tron interacting with Ethereum. There's a place for Polygon interacting with Ethereum. There's a place for ZK rollups operating on top of Polygon and then that going straight to Ethereum. Like there are different levels. We can even harken to Visa just yesterday announcing that they're now going to be using USDC payments on chain. That doesn't mean that every single Visa transaction is going to be on chain. They're going to be recording everything themselves, and then they're going to be batching all of that into a handful of transactions on chain. It's a sort of condensing of information where you can put all of the important things on chain. I think that's going to be really important with NFTs, is also identifying what is important, what isn't, and how these all tie together.
All right. Yeah, maybe to add on to the previous comments here. So first of all, we have to think about how about the user, right? How they are going to, or the the buyers, and how they're going to live with it. When you think about the collectible markets now, or the art market, in the traditional world, there was always some kind of a limited market, right? There was some people who love doing collectibles or art, and now this has expanded, of course, with crypto, but we will go way beyond all that going forward with other NFTs. But the question is, where's that going to live when you have now 10s or 20 different pieces of art in your wallet? What are you going to do with it? And the most important thing is that you actually able to custom utility or custom content to your NFTs. And that's what, for instance, what we are also trying then to achieve with the metaverse, where people actually can go and show maybe their virtual art on on their virtual wall in their house, but they will also be able to import digital goods which are somehow related to the real world. Let's say if you tokenize an old-timer car, and you take maybe one piece of that car into that metaverse, and now you can drive it around and can trade and sell it there as well. So I think this is something we should not forget. This will only succeed and go mass market when actually the end users also has an easy way in, and can actually also have a lot of mechanisms where he can actually discover new NFTs. Right now, we're still in our small crypto bubble here, where lots of people, just looking at it. But eventually, the way we see it is that there will be a social. Maybe it's the wrong word because it's things about centralization, but there will be some kind of a social network around NFTs where I have this possibility to find NFTs, to exchange it maybe with friends, very easy way. And those NFTs, they will be completely blurred with the real world. This will be not just virtual everything, but it will be, as also Christian said, it will be lots of real world applications in there. So it will be just a mix of things, and that's how it's going to evolve.
Thank you, Dirk. That almost a blending of the two worlds, the digital and the physical. We are in our final 5 minutes of the panel. I'd love to have everyone give their final thoughts back to the topic. What's next for NFTs? What's beyond the hype? If we can go around and everyone can give their final thought. Let's start with you, Christian.
Okay, yeah. So the biggest topic that I'm working on right now is actual network topology. So what I mean by that, all of you are NFTs, right? All of you people out there, you're non-fungibles, right? And so any of these assets only have value to the actual owner in that sense, right? If you forget your private key, then this thing might as well not exist, and that holds true for things like your bank account too, right? So all of these technologies are what we call key lock systems, as in you're the key to that particular lock. And the larger point here is you need to think about the actual new network architecture that we are building right now. So the World Wide Web is based on database architecture, and that's what we are fixing right now at scale. So think about more in terms of cryptographic primitives that are mapped to a graph, because I hear this a lot, that people want to store things on blockchains. Blockchains, as we pointed out, are not great storage mechanisms. And actually, you never should store PII, personal identifiable data, on a blockchain. And there's a lot of research papers on that topic around specifically. So you should think more of the original Szabo metaphor of digital vending machines being built by blockchains, as in where you deposit something, someone else can pick it up there, but it only resides as long as you have the rights to deposit it. Someone else has the right to pick it up there. Don't mind the dragon in the background. Okay, I'm gonna hand it off to the next person, because as I said, I'll give hour-long talks on that.
All right, Vanessa, I'd love to hear final remarks from you.
Yeah, so I think there's two things. It's like what is going to become an NFT, and then the infrastructure of the NFT. So I think the infrastructure is being built as we speak, but things like storage, financing, linked to DeFi, all this you'll see coming your way, and I think will be very exciting. And then in terms of items that will be become NFTs, I think, it's such a wide range, ranging from books, music, arts, capturing a moment in time, capturing a historical, moment that you can own and share. And I think we need to think hard about what creates value in the digital world, and how different that is from the physical world, even though we have some projects that will mix the two. I think it's going to be a big paradigm shift.
Thanks, Vanessa. Benjamin, Dirk, and Roy, I'd love to hear. Benjamin, you can go first, but just a quick final remark on what's the future.
Sure, and already talked a lot about on-chain data. That's going to be a really big thing. Also being able to compress data and make really impressive art in games that you can play basically right on chain in ways that have not been seen yet. So there's a lot being worked on there. AR and VR, we haven't even talked about that, but there is a very strong overlap with ownership of blockchain assets, and both of those, the books, music, and movies, that was a really good one. I forgot that books were so easily able to be put on chain as NFTs, and nobody has really done that yet. So I think that's going to happen. And then there's going to be physicals and wearables for sure, where you're actually buying an asset that has a physical analog, something that Josie is working on that's called Mirrorware. That'll be launching later this year, focused on that strongly. And then finally, I think the next big breakout is, like right now we have the NFTs as art is the major breakout right now. Blockchain games, definitely. Nice. It just hasn't happened yet because it takes so long to make a game, but we're absolutely gonna see that. And we're gonna see a major game studio, maybe Ubisoft, announce NFTs in the next 2 years.
Thanks, Benjamin. Dirk, I'd love to hear from you. And you actually are building one of those blockchain games.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to work, right? We're growing, especially the last couple of months, like crazy, and hopefully we reach 1 million users soon. So, so I believe that, but we have to think about, user-centric, and I think we should stop talking about chain and on-chain or what blockchain A is better than blockchain B. Really think about the user, what they want to use, and they should not think about how do I set up my wallet, my private keys, and all that stuff. Make it super simple and aggregate it together, right? So that's actually I think to use that term, interoperability will be super important, but really obfuscate that layer completely to the users. And when we achieve that, I think then we really go mass market, and hopefully that is going to happen in the next 2 to 3 years.
Thank you, Dirk. All right, real quick, Roy, from you.
Yeah, so I think you'll think it even bigger. Look, it said everything consumer internet can be NFT'd. Anything. Like if people are willing to pay $2.5 million for a tweet, right? Anything can be NFT'd in the consumer space. So think bigger than that. E-commerce, gaming, entertainment, even advertising, everything can be that. So that's how I see it's happening.
Thank you, Roy. Those are really good insights. Thank you all the panelists for joining and sharing our discussion. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Christian, Dirk, Benjamin, Vanessa, and Roy, and all the attendees who listened in. We're going to be walking into the next section. We're going to be having a presentation from Mintbase. So, Christian, I know you're very familiar with them, but Carolin will be presenting. Thank you, everyone, for your time. And also just a quick reintroduction for anyone just joining in. Here at Crowdcreate, what we really do is we connect thought leaders and experts, influencers, creators to your project. So, that's a little bit about us. We believe in the wisdom of the crowds and bringing the most successful thought leaders to the front of the stage. That way we can learn, at a faster rate and get ahead in the industries we're curious about. We do have a private Slack community where you can engage with these panelists that you've heard on the stage. If you have any more interest in learning about us, we are at crowdcreate.us. All right, welcome. We are now welcoming Carolin Wend from Mintbase. So excited to learn more about your project to everyone attending. And you have 10 minutes. So you have 10 minutes. I'll be ringing a bell at the 1 minute mark. You have the stage and you can go ahead and share your screen. But welcome, Carolin. We're very excited about your project.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ivan. Yeah, I really love the conversation that was on here earlier, and how NFTs now move beyond the collectability aspect, and NFTs become more kind of like an asset for multi-purposes. So yeah, we are Mintbase. We are an NFT platform. We have been live for over 2 years. We started on the Ethereum blockchain, and we mostly did NFT ticketing for several events, for NFT New York City, for DebCon. So that was kind of beautiful because it showed that an NFT is not just like an art piece or a collectible, but it's a ticket. So it gets you into a conference and does much more. Like, for example, we built voting apps where people who had an NFT ticket could vote on who they wanted to see speak at the conference. So it was a beautiful use case. As many people know, the Ethereum gas fees, so the cost to mint an NFT, became super high. So last year, in about August, we faced some issues because what we are all about is democratize people to create NFTs and to build their own business models. That became too expensive. So last year, we decided to add another blockchain. So not only allow support on the Ethereum blockchain, but also built on the Near blockchain. And we specifically chose the Near blockchain because we want to see those NFTs being used in the real world. So now I'm just gonna dive into our new platform, Mintbase on Near. I'm super excited to show you this. So I hope you can all see my screen. Is that okay? Can you see my screen?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, perfect. So this is Mintbase on Near. We actually are on testnet right now. We didn't expect 3,200 people to sign up to test on testnet. But yeah, super cool. We are all about, we basically built what everyone was talking about in Ethereum land. So fractionalizing ownership, real world use cases, and now we actually have it. And I'm very, very excited about this project. So I'm just gonna dive into how to mint an NFT. So basically, we can just click on build and we can create a new store. So I will give you a live demo. So let's create a store, Crowdcreate, and maybe give it a little symbol. So what I'm doing right now is I'm deploying my own store, which is a unique verified smart contract on the Near blockchain, which is very green, by the way, the blockchain, and another reason why we chose to build on Near. As you all know, it's a proof of stake system, which is more sustainable and energy efficient. So here it goes. I just deployed a store for you guys, Crowdcreate. Super easy. I click on it, and this is my entire interface. I have like, how many buttons? 4 buttons here. So I can create as many stores as I want. As you can see here, I have different stores. And to mint a token, and this is where it's very important for you guys to know what we built, because it's not like anything that is out there. So I upload my image. Everyone is familiar with the process. Here I'm uploading coffee. So maybe this is a coffee NFT. It can be redeemed against a real coffee at a coffee shop. Maybe I put some text, so coffee shop. I can mint maybe, no, let me just go for 8 or 2. And this here is a major differentiating point to the Ethereum blockchain. On the current system, the NFT is the ERC 721 standard, the most common one. The problem is that when you, for example, as an artist, sell an NFT on, I don't know, Rarible, and you configure the royalties, and it gets sold later on OpenSea or known origin, the original creator doesn't get any royalties. And with this system, we engrave the royalties in the actual token. So we are actually developing the standard together with the Near team, which is very exciting. let me just put in people who will get forever royalties. So once I did this, I can also put in other metadata, which is all stored on Arweave, like a video or also like a location. And then I select or press Mint Me. I get redirected to my near wallet. Sorry. Let's see. Maybe I refresh. Here it is, my near wallet. I allow the transaction, I confirm. It's basically like MetaMask, this near wallet, but better. Okay, so now I minted my token and I can now in the second step set it for sale. And there I can configure the fractional ownership everyone is talking about. So I can not only configure my royalties, like split royalties, but I can also configure my split revenues, which is amazing. Just imagine you are a content creator and you created a video with 4 or 5 different people, then they can all get split revenues on the first time sale. So split revenue is only one time and royalties is forever. So once I configured that, I can set it for sale. And what we are actually doing, we are launching with a real world use case. So there is this festival in Berlin called Wilde Möhre Festival. It's basically like a mini Burning Man. It's about an experience. You walk from one location to the next location. It's super nice. It's one of my favorite festivals. So what we are doing for our launch is actually we are creating a marketplace for them where we have several different super nice projects. So we are creating a metaverse event where people can trade and create NFTs as art tickets, music that can be redeemed against actual physical items at the festival. So we have an NFT house where people can go into the house. It's an actual location. It's like a little house where you can buy and drink tea with NFTs. And you can also learn about NFTs. We have an NFT dark room where people who have no idea about NFTs, about what the heck blockchain is, they can just go into the photo dark room, they can take a selfie, and they can mint an NFT on the near blockchain with Mintbase. So we're really educating those people, and this is a real world use case. So I am super excited. And just to go one step back, how we are organizing this project. So there are lots of different people who are helping out. Like, for example, we are curating the NFT art market. So there are like 5 people who will filter out the artists who are allowed to exhibit. So we have different projects, right? And we have people who help us with building an Somnium space. So what we're actually gonna do is those people who are involved in the actual building, they get split revenues and they get paid with like a person buying the actual NFT. So as you can see here, for example, this is a Somnium space built. So we have some people who help us building and we have split revenue. So you can exactly see Network Warp. He's like a really famous builder in Somnium space. He, for example, gets 137.6 near. Then we have those different people who were involved in the creation of the building in Somnium space. Those people will get split revenues, but also you can exactly see who will get royalties forever. So this is like the actual use case that we are building. We are creating an ecosystem at the actual festival. And you guys only have 1 minute left.
Carolin, we're already at the 10 minutes. I was so excited about your project.
Thank you. I will stop sharing. So anyways, you're invited to join the festival exhibition because it's open for people who are not in Berlin and who just want to jump in and test it out. So yeah.
Carolin, mind blowing. You have a lot of fans here in the chat, just how easy it is to mint an NFT. So we love what you're doing. And thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And make sure you answer those questions because you're getting a lot of people calling you out because they love it. All right.
Look at it. We'll do.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Carolin. Thank you for your time. So moving on to the next presenter, we have KU from Origin Protocol. Many of you may have heard of her and her project. It's very good one. I'm excited to see and meet you. Kay.
Okay, and they were famous for Blau's record-setting $11 million auction. And so at the forefront of musicians and artists. So, Kay, thank you for joining us.
All right, thank you guys for having me here. It's so great to meet you guys. My name's KU. I'm based in San Francisco, and I had finance and business operations at Origin Protocol. So we've been in the blockchain space for close to 4 years now. Our mission is to bring true peer-to-peer commerce using blockchain technology. As we've already been, building a blockchain-powered e-commerce platform called DShop. And as we saw sort of the rise of NFTs and sort of the demand amongst our merchant partners and sort of our creator partners, we really want to dive deeper and see how we can solve problems that are prevalent in the industry today and help move NFT, whole revolution in the NFT space forward. So that's what we do. Let me share my screen really quickly. Let me know if you guys can see my screen.
Yep, you're good.
Perfect. All right, so at Origin, we are building a platform, an NFT platform to unlock new fan engagement and monetization opportunities for our creators and artists. So there are sort of three main areas in the NFT space that we're interested in. So the first being NFTs that represent redemption of physical goods, like physical vinyls we've seen in our first partner, DJ Blau, whether it's, as the NFTs are getting traded in the secondary market, and there's a need to kind of see the origin, the provenance of these NFTs, there could be a huge use case there in the offline physical goods world. And then the second is NFTs that unlock premium digital content. So whether that's in gaming, that's in music, that's in art, there's a huge opportunity that, as we've all seen with the various NFT drops that have happened in the industry so far. And the third is access to premium experiences. And all the artists and creators that I've talked to, this is probably the most interesting thing that they really want to introduce to their fans. Obviously, with the pandemic, they want to kind of offer unique offline or online premium experiences to their fans. There's tons that can be sort of unleashed with the NFTs. So thanks so much for the intro. We did our first NFT drop, back in February, where we partnered with a world-renowned DJ, and we were able to build an NFT platform for him, where he was able to raise $11.7 million worth of NFT sales. So this sort of tiered auction model that we introduced had gamification features, where the auction was extended in the last 3 minutes when the top bidder was outbid. So I know that was really fun for our users who were involved. We had tons of just support and engagement from the NFT collector community. And again, thanks to our partner who really sort of was an advocate in our auction, in our drop, and just in this NFT ecosystem overall. And those are types of partners that we're looking for as an NFT platform. So why Origin? So obviously there are tons of amazing NFT projects out there, that are speaking today at this today's conference. At Origin, we believe in offering a white labeled product for our partners. So what this means is that the entire infrastructure that we build will live on the domain of the creator or the artist's own choosing. And that way they can control their own brand and their own content and really provide that sort of curated experience that they're looking for to offer to their fans. There's obviously with any sort of application, we need to provide a very easy to use, seamless user experience. We're talking about, and not just NFT collectors, but also mainstream fans who just want to support their favorite artists and favorite creators. So at Origin, as a technology platform company, we are interested in providing the best user experience, easy to use product, the auction and unique game mechanics I discussed, and there are way more in the pipeline we'd love to share with you guys. Multiple winners in maximizing revenue, and really kind of collaborating with our creator and artist partners to come up with the best product as we're scaling out our NFT platform. just to talk about our team really briefly. So, we are, we have a team of experienced, veterans in this space, serial entrepreneurs, Matt, Josh, our co-founders, who have built successful business together in the past. We have engineers who founded PayPal, first employee at YouTube, et cetera, who have experience, working on mainstream consumer products. And we think that's vital to what we're building here at Origin. So there are two main types of NFT sales that if you're a creator today watching our presentation and you're interested in potentially working with us, there are two types of NFT sales that you can kind of introduce to your fans. So first being the open edition, which is more of a flash sale type that lasts 10 to 30 minutes or more if you'd like. This really targets large audience of mainstream fans with a fixed and lower price point. And we can enable credit card payments as well. So both crypto and credit card payments, which are essential in reaching our mainstream fans. We actually just announced yesterday another NFT drop with the famous musician, Lupe Fiasco. So if you go to nft.lupefiasco.com, you will see the entire sort of website we've built for Lupe, where he will be having his open edition as well as the auction starting April 12th. So please check that out. And speaking of auction, so this is what you've seen with our first NFT experiment, our first drop back in February. It was a 2-day auction. There were multiple winners. Again, the gamification I mentioned, and this really targets the smaller audience of crypto collectors who really want to show support to their favorite artists and creators in the NFT space. For this auction in particular, we're enabling crypto payments only. The reason being with sort of the high bid amounts, as we can imagine, the credit card companies will likely block certain transactions that are too high in value, hence the crypto payments. So our campaign recommendation is across 2 phases. So first starting with the open edition near term, then launching the auction. This is so important. This is a key learning that as a technology partner we've been feeling is no matter how mainstream you are as an artist, it's so important for you to start building your NFT collector fan base community. Without that, any NFT drop you do just cannot be successful. In fact, I've got a chance to talk to multiple NFT collectors who participated in our first auction. And if I ask them, hey, why did you participate in it? They simply said, hey, I just wanted to show my support to my favorite artist. That's it. And so this sort of intimate community surrounding the artist is so key in making any NFT drop successful. I know I have 20 seconds here, so I'll go through quickly. So again, if you're interested in talking to us and working with us and doing your first NFT drop through our NFT Launchpad, as I mentioned before, we are currently, our second partner is Lupe, our first partner being Blau. We're looking for key partners who believe in our long-term vision in bringing NFTs to the masses. So we'd love to hear from you. Lastly, we are a blockchain company. We have our own native token called Origin Token, which is an Ethereum ERC20 token. If you want to participate in the growth of our growing network, please check it out. You can Google OGN if you're interested. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kay. Love how you're bringing mainstream to blockchain and crypto and bringing exposure. So
excited. Thanks.
Thank you, Kay. All right, thank you for your time in presenting. You got a lot of questions again, so definitely make sure to get them answers and stick around. We have a pretty exciting influencer mastermind panel coming up and a close out panel. So thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
All right. Next up on our presenter list, we have, let's see, Star Atlas. We have the team behind Star Atlas jumping in. Michael Wagner, excited to learn about your project. Excited to see you again. And you are officially a cartoon character.
Hey guys.
You look a little different from the last time we talked.
Yeah. I love going through this little exercise just because I really believe that the future of digital identity and avatar creation is going to lead to a ton of creative opportunities for people that are entering into the game universe and metaverse into the future. I will switch over here back to my authentic photo. But I love
Well,
to
Michael, yeah, so you have 10 minutes. I'll ring a bell at the 1 minute mark. You have the stage. Excited to learn about you.
Fantastic. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. And Kay, love what you're working on at Origin Protocol. We should connect after this, but let me just jump right into this and make sure I'm sharing my screen with you all here.
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, beautiful. So thank you guys for the introduction. As noted, my name is Michael Wagner, CEO, co-founder of Star Atlas. Just very quickly on background, I've spent the greater part of a decade working in the blockchain and cryptocurrency space. Come from the world of traditional finance, but really enjoy the opportunity that exists within the blockchain ecosystem. And of all of the areas that I've participated in across crypto, blockchain, investing, and the like, I'm extremely excited and enthusiastic about what we're building in Star Atlas. So Star Atlas is a space-themed, massively multiplayer online role-playing game that also encompasses a metaverse. And we like to think about the company across at least 3 different rails or 3 different pillars within which we're building on. And so the first is a AAA gaming experience that is intended to be attractive to a mainstream audience. So when we set out to build this game, it was important to us that we didn't categorize ourselves or pigeonhole ourselves into the blockchain gaming niche, which is a relatively small demographic to date. We wanted to build a game that would be playable in mainstream esports tournaments or otherwise just enjoyable for the 2.7 billion gamers around the world. As I said, this is space themed, it's grand strategy. General concept is to hop into a spaceship that you purchase and explore the universe, discover stars, mine planets, get into galactic battles with other players and with AI generated player versus environment engagements, and otherwise just get to explore all that is out there. Where we see ourselves is really enhancing that AAA gameplay experience is through the implementation and incorporation of blockchain itself. And so for us, that includes incorporating things like NFT assets for all of the assets that are in the game. Things like your ships, your crew, components, modules, the virtual land that you can purchase, and then the structures and buildings that you place on that land. These are all NFT assets, non-fungible tokens owned directly by the player. And so therefore, the player is able to extract and monetize the value on those assets. We couple NFTs with both crypto native assets, so cryptocurrencies in the game, a dual token ecosystem. One of these tokens is Atlas. This is effectively the in-game gold, the transactional currency of the universe, used for all forms of expenses and operating costs within the game. And then we also have a governance token that we've built in, effectively a political system that is managed by our Polis token. Where we see a big opportunity on this is not only the strategic elements that are introduced within the gameplay, so allowing players to politically dominate regions of space and even influence that political dominance in the form of imposing taxes on other players, but externally in a true DAO-like decentralized autonomous organization-like fashion, wherein they can vote on and determine development decision-making long-term. So ultimately, leading to a system wherein in the future, the players and the stakeholders will be able to determine the outcome of the game itself. And then the third part of this is really the metaverse concept, wherein it's not necessarily just the content that we are building, that we're delivering to the players, that we as a centralized organization are creating, but rather how do we incorporate and enable player created value and stakeholder created value. And we do really believe that the metaverse itself extends beyond just any of the demographic metrics that we can quantify right now, which includes, gambling elements, crypto enthusiasts, gamer demographics, but really the global population of people who are enabled to participate in the game, in the metaverse, and be able to earn real world earnings out of that. So playing the game actually delivers revenue to the player that they can then extract because we are all crypto native and purely decentralized. So money earned in the game can ultimately be liquidated back into national domestic currency or whatever your local currency is, and create opportunities that otherwise don't exist. We happen to be building this game on Solana, which is a layer 1 protocol we're very fond of. It essentially meets all of the technical requirements that we have to be able to build a game in a decentralized fashion and deliver all of these assets on chain. We have things like NFT marketplaces, as well as pure decentralized finance integrations into the game as well. So not only are players able to buy and sell items from us, but they're also able to trade on a peer-to-peer basis. They're also able to upgrade items that they possess and then sell and liquidate previous items that they've owned. And the DeFi components allow players to effectively generate yield on all of their assets while they're not in use. So this can include things like participating in liquidity pools, automated market making, as well as one of the components that we think is really compelling is the ability to effectively lend assets that you own in a sharing economy fashion to other players and monetize that while it's not in use by you. So you can imagine a scenario in which perhaps a player doesn't necessarily have the capital requirements to be able to get into the game, but they do have sufficient amount of capital to be able to rent an asset from another player. And this creates an opportunity for both. The renter gets to go into the game and earn money. Ideally they'd be earning a net profit off of that activity, but also the player who's not currently utilizing the asset is now generating a residual income stream. So the ultimate goal is to deliver multiple avenues for people to be able to generate yield, revenue, income off of the assets they possess. Just going to flip through a few of these quickly here. And so why do we believe that NFTs are the future of gaming? First and foremost, the true asset of ownerships. So what we are delivering is much more of an invest to play versus a pay to play model that is prevalent today. A lot of current gaming is based on microtransactions and essentially continuously hitting your wallet to do things like customize your avatar, customize skins, buy new items, upgrade items, or otherwise kind of create a pay to win environment. In our model, we are suggesting that players are actually investing in these assets. There's long-term intrinsic residual value on them. And not only are they able to earn off of it, but they're also able to liquidate that later at some point. And if you're a gamer, you know that you probably spend an enormous amount of time in the games that you play. I know I have personally in the MMOs that I've played. And it would be fantastic if I could convert that time spent to actual value back for myself, monetary value for myself beyond the entertainment value that I was able to derive from it. We do think that this will lead to different economic models for both gamers, for players, as well as for the developers. In our case, we have very unconventional revenue streams. Everything from how we've financed our business initially to how we will continue to generate revenue in the future, and also how we can actually share that experience with the people that are participating in our game. Finally, on-chain governance, allowing, as I said, people to essentially contribute to the future development of the game. And then finally, currently all assets are effectively locked into a game environment. When you're working with an individual or playing an individual game, we see these assets being able to move laterally across game development environments. So people that own an avatar in Star Atlas will ultimately be able to move that to another game that they want to play and share that avatar and that experience.
Michael, thank you so much. It's great to see the assets and the arts that you're creating. Is so interesting. Someone wrote, what happens if a ship gets destroyed? Do you burn the NFT?
Yeah, so we do actually. We have 3 different factions and 3 different security zones. It starts in the lightest security zone where there's no risk, but as you explore into deep space, if you get into an engagement and you lose that, the asset does get destroyed. So high risk, but high return.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. Thank you for your time and sharing your project Star Atlas with all of us. You're getting a lot of questions about release dates and everything, so make sure you answer them there. All right, coming up, we have our influencers mastermind panel. We're going to go ahead and welcome. These are influencers both on the creator side and also, these individuals are the voice box for a lot of these NFT projects that you hear out there. We have Joel from Bad Crypto, Bradley from Unstoppable Domains, David Huntsinger from WME Agency, and Nina Hawkins from Lilium Labs. Love your work. Beautiful art that you're creating out there. So excited to learn more about what you guys are seeing. All right, awesome. So we're going to jump. All right, Joel, welcome.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Good.
There we go. We should have audio now. How's it going?
Okay, I hear everyone loud and clear. We're good. All right, so jumping right in, NFTs are all the buzz, and we just transitioned all the way from developer ecosystems to real world tangibles. And kind of one of the missing areas that we have all of you here to talk about is, where is the role of the influencer? And Nina, for you, exactly, you're a creator dabbling in the space. So we wanted to dive into that a little and unpack that as a group.
Yeah, should we go around and quick introductions from everybody just to kind of your backgrounds? David, would you like to go first?
Sure. So I'm David Huntsinger. I sit across our digital department here at WME. I lead a lot of what we do in the gaming space, but also kind of adjacencies to that. So I kind of find myself dabbling in a lot of different worlds. And I'm helping the company organize around NFTs right now. So as you can imagine, there's just this flood of interest from clients across the agency, ranging from actors to musicians to athletes. And so it's been fun kind of figuring out and helping piece together what this can look like for different genres and different types of talent.
Hey, Bradley, would love to have you go next.
Hey everybody, my name is Brad Cam. I'm one of the co-founders of Unstoppable Domains. And what we do is we build domain names on blockchains. Founded in January of 2018. So domain names on blockchains are kind of like, they're like digital real estate. They're also kind of like your digital ID for the internet, and they're NFTs. They are non-fungible tokens, unique, stored inside of your wallet. And this is totally different than a regular domain, which is stored inside of GoDaddy or a company like that. And those companies can take domains away from you. These domains are stored by you, and only you can move them around and make updates. Had about 600,000 domain registrations so far. Yeah, excited to chat with everybody.
Hi, Joel. Yeah, would love to have you go next. Thanks, Bradley.
Hey, good to see you again, Brad. We've been tracking with what Brad's doing Unstoppable here the whole time. So I'm Joel Comm. I'm the co-host of the Bad Crypto podcast, along with my cohort, Travis Wright, also the Nifty Show, the first show about NFTs. And not only have we been following NFTs since late 2017, in 2019, we began creating them. And in 2020, blew it up into a full-time gig. We've now minted well over 500,000 NFTs. We've retailed over $500,000 in our own unique IP and had secondary market sales of well over $2.5 million. Right now, we're like the rest of you. We're entertaining calls from record producers and Hollywood producers and athletes and everybody under the sun that wants to do NFTs and do them right. I'm largely opposed to the big money grabs we see going on. I'm all about bringing value to regular people through non-fungible tokens.
Thanks, Joel. I've been a big fan of your podcast since the early days. So thanks for joining us. Nina, would love to have you go next.
Hey guys, how are you? I'm Nina Hawkins. I'm a multimedia cross-platform artist, and I'm bridging the world of fashion and technology and 3D art all together because my previous background was in fashion photography, filmmaking, modeling, etc., also music, but I've been working extensively on my little avatar, digital avatar incubator called Lilium Labs. I am creating IRL people into URL, basically bringing them into metaverse. Yeah, excited to be part of this. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Thanks, Nina. So Joel, would love to have you kick it off and, from an influencer standpoint, talking about this in the media, but I guess, starting off is why NFTs are not a bubble and why we hear about it so much.
Yeah, well, first of all, we've all collected something, so I'm dating myself a little bit here because I remember buying the original Wacky packages, in the 70s and opening up these packs of cards and seeing, these things come out. You never knew what you were going to get. And that whole experience of surprise and delight and collecting and trading with your friends. And eventually I sold my whole collection actually during COVID, all of my Star Wars cards and comic books and all the things I collected. But, there's this pack rat part of us that is fascinated by collecting and gathering and completing these items, which we're fans of. And the reason I think it's not a bubble is because there are so many niches. There are so many fans. All you got to do is look at any social media platform to see that every musician, every artist, every movie, every TV show, every brand has fans. While I think that what we're seeing from Nifty Gateway and some of the other art sites sometimes feels bubblish, because anybody with Blender can attempt to create art. I don't say that they're succeeding at it. And some of the prices we're seeing are really high. All of these niche groups are going to be served. When The Office, the TV show, finally releases NFTs, fans of The Office are not going to go, oh, well, people bought all these other NFTs, so I'm not going to buy this from my favorite show. No, people are going to buy their favorite products and brands when those are released as NFTs. And we're talking, we're right at the beginning of this. We just turned the corner from pioneer to early adopter. January 1st is the day I say that happened. And we're just at the very beginning of the technology adoption curve. And of course, that curve lasts for 4 or 5 years before we hit the beginning of mass adoption. What's happening now is all of the media hype that is driving everybody to want to play. But it's not unlike when Facebook and Twitter said, hey, turn on your phone and you can go live on our social platforms. Sure, everybody went live, and then most of them stopped because nobody wanted to watch them. The cream is going to rise to the top.
Well said, Joel. So David, from a talent standpoint, would love to hear from you and what's going on in the heads of these musicians, artists, celebrities that are coming to the space. Oh, you're muted, David.
But what he's saying is amazing.
It always is when you're muted, right? The gems only come out on mute. But I think what Joel is saying is actually pretty interesting. I think I agree. The way I compare it is not necessarily to a bubble, but to almost like a tide, where I think that over time we're going to see kind of an onset of interest, and then maybe it kind of have it subside and then come back strong and subside. I think it's going to ebb and flow over time, but I do think that it's going to consistently ebb because of the fact that blockchain is here to stay. And I think that is the more important piece to kind of note, rather than just the NFTs themselves. I think that those are going to be a byproduct of how blockchain starts to revolutionize a lot of the entertainment industry. So when I'm talking to clients and when we're talking to a lot of our talent, whether they're actors, musicians, athletes, it's a very similar conversation. I think number one of the most important things is to, and I think someone said this already, it needs to come off authentically. It's a crowded marketplace already. There's a lot of people doing drops. You need to do something that is not going to A, feel like a cash grab, and B, is going to connect you with your audience. I think most importantly, in all of the NFT space, and there's one thing to take away, when you're doing these drops, it really is just a community building exercise. There's obviously a lot of money to be made in the speculative markets and actually creating and minting these things. But at the end of the day, the ability on point of sale bonuses and point of sale transactions to incentivize fans to come together with unique content, I think that is a really interesting layer for a lot of talent to unpack. And it certainly allows them to do things and connect with their audience in ways that they haven't been able to before. So I think that you're going to see blockchain and NFTs continue to revolutionize the way music content and even linear television content will start to be able to deploy. But I right now look at it from the perspective of, is your idea going to be authentic to your fan base, and is it going to give them a hook with which to connect with you more and connect with each other? So I think that's going to be two of the bigger ways that talent can start standing out right now in, like I said, a very, very noisy marketplace already.
Thanks, David. Nina, I'd love to hear from you because you're on the other side where you're actually doing these drops and you're actually creating these pieces of art. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, in general, I feel like with everything, there's definitely a curve of popularity and a lot of mainstream artists joining in, and everyone, like we were mentioning, is trying to jump on the train of cash grab. But I feel like the top artists that have been doing it for a minute, for like years, gonna stay in it in the long run. And there's gonna be like, I don't know, top 100, top 500, top 1,000 artists that will continue doing what they've always been doing, but they actually will be finally compensated properly for that. And I feel like it's kind of like in the market, when the prices go up and down, it goes back, but overall the curve is gonna steady out. And I feel like why it's not a bubble, because in general creativity is not a bubble. Artists are not some sort of bubble. They're gonna keep creating, yeah, in general, I feel like as long as people and collectors, investors are making their research on their artists and investing in people that are not just jumping in for it in terms of like for the sake of the hype, but that's something that they're working with. I feel like we're going to see a lot of growth, and it's going to change a lot of lives in general.
Thank you. Thank you for that insight, Nina. Interesting, because on the flip side, you have Bradley, who is using influencers and platforms to work to get coverage. Is almost hype is important, right? Almost the flip side of, hey, we need more and more people to talk about unstoppable domains. What are your thoughts on that?
I think with all of this stuff, I think value is created over time. And so, whether you're an influencer selling an NFT, or whether you're building some other technology on the blockchain, like time matters. So same is true for Bitcoin, same is true for Ethereum. There's a lot of crypto native NFT projects that are now in the mainstream, overnight successes, so to speak, but they've been around for 3 or 4 years working on this, even back in so there was like NFT conferences like NFT NYC, and there's a lot of the people that you see now really shining were in this like pretty awkward little back room, whatever meeting spots just a couple years ago. Those are the crypto native ones, and there's tons of awesome stuff happening there. And then I think the other side is time on these brands and individuals and people from the traditional world that have been building their brands for years and years and years and building this value over time. And they've already built their value, and now some of them are going on chain, so to speak, and capturing value. But still, it's about time. It's about having established something real in the minds of people. Yes, we of course work with folks to get the word out about unstoppable domains, but domains themselves are also like your digital ID on the blockchain. They're like, you can like receive money to them, and you can post content there, and so they have kind of they have sort of a role to play potentially for influencers themselves who are trying to promote their wares in any number of ways. So,
And we're seeing NFTs becoming a way for influencers to monetize and to continuously monetize from their work. Anybody else want to add to that discussion?
Well, I'll say this. Go ahead, Dave.
No, go ahead.
So, it's not just NFTs, it's finding ways to integrate NFTs into other things you're doing. For example, we've got a token on Roll, the hero token that goes along with our blockchain heroes ecosystem and everything we're doing. So we have social money, and we're looking at, okay, as people are investing in our community and acquiring our social money, what are ways that we can allow them to redeem that for value through the community? Well, NFTs are one of those ways that we're going to be offering some exclusive items that they can only purchase with our social money. So we're requiring people to, be part of a community in order to receive the benefits of being a community member. And that's just, I think that every day I hear another application of how somebody's going to integrate NFTs into their business. And we're just so getting started with the innovativeness that I look around and I'm like, all these people that are so smart in all of these different niches, the next few years are just going to be absolutely explosive in innovation.
Go ahead, David.
No, I mean, I think that was actually very well said. What I was going to kind of point to is that I think that when we do talk about what are those bonuses that actually hook on people to the NFT in some other way, it always should tie back in some capacity to the larger business, at least on the talent side. I think that when you look at what you know, there's some that are more easy to see and envision, kind of like what Gronk did. It makes sense to do trading cards that can tie back into his career and tie back into what he's doing. But you know, I think that the more interesting and potentially kind of more exciting things down the line are going to be ways that content creators, whether that's a filmmaker, whether that's a musician, start to plug in things to album releases, to the concerts that they're playing, to actual film releases that they're doing. So exclusive content that you're able to really drive to your fan base and drive to your community outside of the bigger projects that you are working on at the time. That is actually very exciting to me. And I also really like the fact that as you're doing that, you don't just need to look at the NFT as the fan club experience, which is what we've been talking about up to this point, but you really can actually look at it as the distribution and the content itself, right? So I think that you're going to start seeing over time, people intentionally release short films, creative content on the NFT and blockchain systems, just because that is going to be a more direct route in order to access your fans rather than kind of posting things on a YouTube or going through a studio system or going through a record label.
Great points there and good insights. I have to say, Nina, I think your people are catching on to your phrase. You know, the creativity is not a bubble. Looks like people really, really love that.
Yeah, actually, Alex kind of we were talking about the bubble in general, and he was kind of helping me out on there with and I just think it's a really great idea in general that, like, yeah, as long as there are people who are following their path, it won't be a bubble, you know? Yeah.
That's well said. I think that's actually the role of influencers in this whole thing, is that a lot of them are kind of the gatekeepers, and they're sharing and they're getting more and more mainstream people into the space. So they are very important to the growth of NFTs. David, I'd love to hear from you. Like, what are you hearing from the talent space? Are they excited? Are they embracing it? Because we've heard from a lot of platforms that make it easy for them. What is the talent world saying?
You know, it's like, I'm sure everyone on this call has had a similar kind of syndrome over the last few weeks, but it feels like just every amount of free time has evaporated from my life. And it's in part because it doesn't matter what kind of talent you are, what you're into, what kind of creative you are. The unique thing about NFTs is they're very unifying. There's an application across pretty much any genre, any medium. There's always kind of some creative plugin that hasn't necessarily been tried or pioneered. So there's a ton of just excitement around the entire talent community. And that goes all the way from folks that I work with who are digital native talent off of YouTube or Twitch, all the way to more of the mainstream celebrities that are on field or on screen. So again, what I've been doing and the way we've been kind of helping shape this up is there are obviously platforms that are great at what they do. You know, the SuperRare folks doing stuff on the one of ones. You have, you know, more of the Zora model that's doing limited drops and creating some of that artificial demand. But I think that more importantly than going first to a platform is figuring out what you're going to do, how you're going to connect with your fans, and then reverse engineering your approach. So, for example, if you're really trying to target only a very limited number, drive up price, and create a very kind of exclusive moment for your community, you're not necessarily going to want to just go wide on OpenSea and do an open collection, open edition. You're going to want to be strategic. And so one of the things that we've been also doing is working with third-party white label solutions and partners that are popping up every day, it seems like, and helping find those people who are masters in the marketing side, because to me, marketing feels like almost everything right now in the celebrity-driven NFT space. I think you can make arguments for artist-driven stuff and some of the other niches, but if you're talking about mainstream celebrities right now with the influx of those kind of talent, it really is a marketing equation. So we're finding people who can really drill down on the marketing, set up the right clubhouse rooms, set up the right discords, get onto Reddit. It's those kind of very tangible and hands-on marketing engines that are allowing people to connect with their fans and drive directly into the NFT space. So that's a little bit of how we're framing it up and thinking about it. And we're always encouraging talent. We're always working with talent to develop the kernel of an idea first. Think about where you want to drive your community, how you want to relate to them. And even if the idea isn't fully fleshed out, think about what those hooks are that you're going to attach to the NFT. And then we can reverse engineer the whole process. Like if you have the assets, great. If we need to find somebody for those, we can do that. But I think right now it's about really good marketing, really good creative, and engaging your fans in a great way.
I'm glad that you're asking the questions of talent, David, because it's so easy for, we're seeing all these people starting to say, we're going to be the platform for musicians and we're going to be the platform for athletes. And all of a sudden you've got NFTs, basically is what it is, right? We'll make your NFTs, and nobody gives any thought or consideration to what they're putting out. And, you mentioned Gronk earlier. So I call the money grabs the Gronk effect, essentially, like let's put something out there and bring in a lot of money to somebody who's already got a multi-million-dollar contract. And oh, by the way, for regular people that are millions of fans out there, you get nothing. I totally mismanaged. Same problem with Kings of Leon. Same deal. You can buy this NFT for $50 and get the album. Oh, but by the way, you've got a $75 gas fee. And the cheapest collectible that they had available beyond that was $1,000. Millions of people left astray because some agency stepped in and said, hey, we can make a lot of money putting out this inferior product. And it needs to stop. That's my rant.
It's a great point. No, it's a good rant. And I think that's why we really do want to be intelligent right now. You don't want to have your fans feel that way. You definitely don't. So one of the ways that you can get around that we've been playing around with is when you're thinking about a collection, you don't need to think about it as a one size fits all. You don't need to say, oh, well, I'm just going to do my one of one, or I'm going to do my closed collection, my closed edition. You can think about them in kind of prongs. So the way one of the ways we're engaging and telling talent to think about it is, if you want to do something that reaches your general fan base, is super accessible, maybe you do an open edition. We do that for a week, but on the tail of that, for kind of like either the crypto collector community, some of your more kind of like high earning potential fans, you do maybe like a 50 to 100 unit more exclusive drop with maybe access to you and exclusive content on the tail of that. So you're really able to hit the entire community, make everybody feel like they're a part of it. I think that's all great. The last thing I'll say before I shut up, because I'm talking a lot here, is one of the things that we like about the fact that you can build your own platform, build your own website, instead of having to just kind of launch something up on OpenSea, is the fact that it allows talent and creatives to own the pipes. So much more important when you're talking to your fan base that you can drive them to, we'll still talk about Gronk NFT, the fact that that is a domain that is tangible for people who don't necessarily understand the crypto space or the NFT space as well, gives them something that they understand, makes it easy and user friendly. So I do like that model. I think that's a way for talent to really engage better. And truthfully, when you are thinking about NFTs and crypto and blockchain as a much longer tail business, owning the pipes and owning your own distribution is going to be super important down the line.
Dave, that's great. In terms of the marketing to help other creators that are here, any recommendations, Bradley? Because I learned about Unstoppable Domains and you popped up on my YouTube feed for some reason. But do you have any tips on how you were able to make Unstoppable Domains so successful in getting exposure?
Well, I think the whole premise of having a domain on a blockchain is about the user being completely in control. So, I mean, mostly it's about that. We've been pushing out this message, but I think it's just interesting because what David was talking about was really this problem of influencers controlling their own channels, and this has like been a subject with social media, but it's also being inside of other people's applications and therefore having to play by their rules and not being able to build your audiences and relate to your audiences. I think that's one of the things that the crypto tech can deliver on, is put the user completely in control. So I think that's probably where we would come in. And I don't think that this is true for your kind of your mainstream celeb yet. It's probably more for kind of more crypto oriented folks, because blockchain domains only work inside of limited browsers, Opera browser right now, and more hopefully coming soon. But I think that's probably where domains would play with influencers more directly.
Thanks, Bradley. So Joel, you sent me a message. What is the topic you want to chat about?
Oh, I'm like, can we talk about the elephant in the living room? It's somebody actually referenced it again here in the question about what was wrong with the Kings of Leon opportunity outside of the gas fee. I think that is one of the biggest problems. But to address the question more directly, if you're not providing value for the majority of your fan base in some way, you're basically giving them the middle finger, saying, we don't care about you. All we care about is the whales. Patrick Mahomes NFTs were beautiful. And the producer of our show and my co-host are both Chiefs fans. So I'll be very careful not to say anything wrong here. But the cheapest NFT you can get in the Mahomes sale was $2,500. What about the millions of people that would want something, $10, $25, some sort of collectible, but somebody somewhere convinced them that, oh, we're only going to do these and only the rich, only the wealthy can get them. I think this is a huge mistake, but it's one of the problems inherent with Ethereum because you've got these outrageous gas fees. I consider Ethereum, I call it inferium, actually. I like it as a chain for smart contracts, but for NFTs, it's utter crap. The reason people go there is it's because it's like McDonald's. It's on the road. This is where you eat. Oh, Ethereum is where you do NFTs. We've been publishing on Wax since last August. No effect on the environment. We're minting thousands and thousands of NFTs at minuscule amounts. We have instant transactions and we're able to sell NFTs for as little as a penny on a secondary market. And you can buy it for a penny because there's none of these gas fees. So a lot of the experiences that we are helping these creators to see is you can do the traditional packs. You know, when you buy a piece of art, you see exactly what you're getting. You know, okay, here I'm buying this, I'm getting this. But, you know, the thing that really brings so many of us in is the gamification. When we bought Garbage Pail Kids packs or Star Wars cards or baseball cards or whatever it is, even Nifty Gateway has kind of taken to this with art. They see the value of selling a pack. They call it a pack. You get one item in that pack, but we're selling real packs of trading cards and items and artwork on the Wax chain, and you can buy a pack for $5 or $10 and you get all of these NFTs in different looks and different variations, and it's creating all of this delight and surprise for people. And as a result of our success, we've been asked to be on the Wax Advisory Council, full disclosure, but it was only after we found the chain and did some, you know, things on our own and succeeded with it. You know, you've got Topps, you've got Atari, you've got Deadmau5, you've got Capcom Street Fighter. I think it's the best hidden secret that's not going to be a secret for much longer. And I don't know why you would publish on Ethereum when you can have these alternatives. Rant over.
Thank you, Joel. But those are really, really, you know, the questions the community is asking. And thank you for pointing out that is one of the elephants in the room or the living room, as you say. But great discussion overall. I mean, thank you everyone for joining as a panelist. You know, this ecosystem is growing and it's, you know, it's changing, and even the, you know, the blockchains that are being used are changing. And I know Ethereum is coming off their next iteration. So let's see what happens. But thank you so much.
All about the layer twos.
Layer twos, correct. But thank you, Nina. Thank you, Bradley. Thank you, Joel. Thank you, David, for your insights and sharing it with the community here.
Of course.
All right. Moving into our final panelists. Remember, speakers, definitely you can chat with us in our private Slack to keep the communication going. And also a lot of people are asking questions in the Q&A, so feel free to stick around. To our final panelists, we have the State of the NFT Mastermind panel. We have Cameron Bale from NFT.NYC, James Ferguson from Immutable, Jake Brookman from CoinFund, and Ian from Attention Live. And we're excited to kind of round out this conference and kind of, you know, talk about what we learned and what we had, you know, heard from these really influential speakers. Welcome, Jake, James.
Hi, Evan. How you guys doing?
Doing good. It's been a very enlightening afternoon. Cameron, hello, hello.
Hello. Great to see you guys.
All right. Well, it's exciting. I hope you everyone enjoyed a good chat for the past 2.5 hours. Some of the leaders in the space.
And so we specifically chose this panel because Cameron, you've been organizing NFT NYC for years now. They're mentioning you as one of the pioneers as the event organizers. James, with Immutable and God Unchained, you're definitely one of the top projects out there that everybody's watching. And Jake, I know that you've been investing in a lot of these projects for quite some time. So would love for you to go around and just, introduce yourself, and then we'll dive into some of these topics.
I'll go ahead. Thanks for that, Jeff. And it's great to be on a panel with another Australian so that only one of us needs to explain our funny voices. Great to be here. As you mentioned, we've hosted NFT NYC. This is going to be our third year. The reason that we host the event is because we have an NFT creation, marketing, and distribution platform called nft.cred. We're really focused on how we can bring NFT applications to mainstream audiences, focused on brands and events. And NFT NYC is the way that we then, we're building community around the space. And, your event today is, one of the great things that we're seeing coming up, more and more events. NFT NYC this year, we're expecting to have over 100 speakers, and it's going to be extended to 2 days. So we're excited to have, it's a huge year of NFTs.
Nice. James, would love to have you go next.
Fantastic. Thanks for having me on. So I'm James Ferguson. I'm the CEO of Immutable, and we have two main projects. So one is our flagship game, Gods Unchained. Gods Unchained is a AAA video game, trading card game, where the cards are NFTs themselves. And in fact, there are more Gods Unchained NFTs than all other NFTs put together. So what we've done with Gods Unchained is really try and make a game that will be approachable and popular for the mainstream. And the team behind that has been growing. There's 40 people on the Gods Unchained team so far, and that team's growing pretty quickly. The other big thing we've been working on is how can you allow a game or an application to scale on Ethereum when it uses NFTs? So far, I think what's been really interesting is we've seen this NFT boom, and a lot of the interest has been concentrated in the high value items, right? So it's been in the art space, it's been in the collectible space, and it's been for items which have been going for hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. And I love that I can see from the panelists that you can't do it from Ethereum. And currently that is the case. So the fact is that gas fees are too expensive for trading NFTs, but we have been behind the scenes for over a year now, building out the first production ZK rollup for NFTs on Ethereum. What does this mean? It means it's a true layer 2. It means that there are 0 gas fees for the creation of NFTs on Ethereum now, and also the trading of NFTs on Ethereum. It also means some other great things. You still get to keep self-custody of the items. You get to have instant user experience as well. And it's ultimately secured by Ethereum, backed by Ethereum, and interoperable with the entire Ethereum ecosystem. So that's what we are actually launching next week. And we're pretty excited about it. And it's going to be rolling out first with Gods Unchained, but we've got a lot of other games and partners and marketplaces that are all going to be using it. So it's essentially a protocol for the scalable trading of NFTs on Ethereum and improving Ethereum.
Love that. Thanks, James. Jake, would love to have you go next.
Awesome. Thanks, Ivan and Jeffrey, for having me. I'm Jake Brookman, CEO and founder of Coin Funds. We are an investment firm. Kind of our hometown is New York, looking at the blockchain space for a number of years. As far as NFTs, we've been investing in the NFT space for a while. Early investors in Dapper Labs in 2018, pre-seed investors in Rarible.com, and a couple of other projects in NFT financialization. I sit in on the investment committee at Flamingo DAO, and also run firstedition.xyz, which is a digital NFT art gallery since May of 2019. And happy to be here, talk about the NFT space, a very exciting one, and one that has obviously been starting to take blockchain mainstream before even DeFi. So I think that's an interesting angle on it.
Thanks for joining us, Jake. And Ian, I'd love for you to go next.
My name is Ian Utilli. I am the CEO at Attention Live, where we have integrated NFT creation into audio broadcast. So I did a talk last year at NFT NYC about tokenizing attention. We were talking about how can you tokenize the attention that you might get from a live stream or from a podcast, or now a big part of people's attention is on Clubhouse, places like that. And so we make it really easy for people to broadcast audio from our platform. And while they do that, in real time, we create an NFT that goes into the NFT.cred marketplace. And so we've been very excited about this space. I got involved in 2017-18 when it was just being talked about. And it's been fun to be around all of you brilliant people that are creating great technology and to be able to partner with amazing people like Cameron here on the panel with me and his team. So very thankful to be invited here to Crowdcreate and looking forward to our conversation that we're going to have right now.
Thanks, Ian. I love the glasses you have there. So I wanted to jump right in, and it's so funny because Catherine literally wrote in the chat, Gods Unchained is vintage NFT. That's I thought that was so funny. But let's start there, James. And because you run one of the largest titles on blockchain, I wanted to hear from you. And is this the vintage NFT? But where do you see things going for NFTs? And I'd also like to unpack that layer 2 protocol ZK rollup you talked about. But let's start with where do you see things going?
So I think that while NFTs are currently receiving a disproportionate amount of media attention, it's still so early days compared to what they're going to do to the whole industry and quite possibly the whole way that lots of pieces of technology function. So having a look, what we've seen so far is we've seen it be used for status and scarcity and a way for creators to essentially have a new monetization channel where they get to go direct to their consumers. And we've seen this in the art space and with people creating collectibles. That's been very popular. Some games have started to come of that as well, where you start taking these items and giving them more utility and even more status in this digital world. These are the first two ones. Games take a lot longer to build, a lot longer to get right, which is why potentially we've seen fewer high quality games so far, but more high quality artists coming just because it's something that you can build faster. I think what's been really interesting though is so far we have only seen an explosion of high value NFTs. And ultimately, high value NFTs as luxury goods are interesting, but unlikely to have the change that I think we all here know that NFTs can have on the world. So as soon as we make it accessible and the ability for lower value NFTs to be liquid and to be traded, that's what makes this space really interesting. I know some of the things that we're all thinking about is where does this space go eventually? Are they going to be crazy, fractionalization and interoperability of NFTs? Well, to get that, first of all, you need liquidity amongst NFTs, and you need it in the low value, more long tail of unique items. And in order to do that, you need a solution which has no gas fees for the creation and no gas fees for the trading. So an example is we currently have about over 10 million different cards in Gods Unchained. We're in the middle of minting the first batch, our latest season, 2 million of them onto the layer 2. If we were to create those cards on L1, on Ethereum, and the average value of most of those cards is probably about $1. There are some which are really, really valuable, but the average value is $1. Some are only going to be worth 10, 20 cents, which is needed in order to onboard people. If we were to create all those 2 million cards onto Ethereum, it would cost us between $40 and $80 million. Either we would have to pay that or our users would have to pay that. We would clog up the blockchain for a long time as well. So that would be likely a week worth of transactions in order to do that, even with different compression algorithms we've made in the past. So what this is really doing is we're currently all creating the primitives, whether it's a way to trade, whether it's a way to start tokenizing new unique assets, whether they're something like podcasts or a new way to reach your audience, as soon as we can add scarcity and ownership to these with more utility and actual liquidity, then the space starts to get really interested.
Thanks, James. And I actually hear a lot of those echoed from some of our keynotes, John Crane and even Miko. I wanted to hear from you, Jake. You kind of mentioned, NFT is kind of like the Trojan horse, bringing mass adoption. Where do you see this evolving to and growing, because you've been in the space for so long?
Yeah, thank you. Well, the point that I sort of made is it's so interesting, isn't it, that for a long time we thought that blockchain would be taken mainstream on the efficiencies that we have been creating in things like decentralized finance or payments or social media even. And in fact, what's actually happening is that blockchain technology is being taken very, very mainstream by digital art and creators. And one of the reasons for that is that creators have been a really great early adopter of the technology while not being, nerdy and technical like the tech and finance people that sort of started out, in blockchain in the early days. Our creatives, they're willing to do weird stuff. They're willing to get Ether, to download weird apps on their phone, to mint pictures of cats on the blockchain, right? And overall, there's just been a great product market fit there, which is now spilling out into the mainstream. And what we see is art galleries going after the NFT use cases. We see Taco Bell minting NFTs on Rarible, Charmin toilet paper as well. Celebrities trying it out, influencers trying it out. Of course, the Christie's sale, the upcoming Sotheby's sale that will happen with Pac, and on and on and on. And of course, major artists like Shepard Fairey, right? Starting to do drops on some of these platforms, and Susan Kare, a famous icon designer, tokenizing her donut icon from the Apple days. In any case, that's what's happening, and it's a little bit surprising, but it's also kind of not surprising looking back on it, because the financial use cases of blockchain are very nerdy. They're very technical. They're not for everybody. But everybody relates to the idea of owning a piece of art or collecting some interesting collectibles or games. Now, what I think is going to happen next is that we are also going to recognize that in putting these kinds of digital media on the blockchain, we're also creating a new asset class. And in fact, it is financial. We'll soon be able to do things like, take a CryptoPunk and get a loan of Ether or US dollars against that kind of collateral. It's sort of mind-blowing. And I think there's a large number of financial applications that are possible in the NFT space, and we're going to see them come to market very soon.
Thanks, Jake. And you mentioned, and also James, you mentioned it too, it's kind of the podcasts. If podcasts entered the world, and we know with the explosion of Clubhouse popularity, this is a good opportunity. Ian, I'd love to hear from you, because you're kind of doing exactly that. You're moving podcasts to NFTs.
Yeah, imagine a world where musicians only played music for adoration and applause. That's why ASCAP and BMI and Universal and Warner exist, right? For distribution and for the ability for an artist to be monetized. And so we've been working to solve this problem in partnership with Cameron and many other strategic partners that allow us to create a platform that does everything in one place. So if you think about our approach, it's like taking Clubhouse with HubSpot and OpenSea. And so the goal is that a teacher, a preacher, a podcaster, a spoken word poet, a Clubhouse moderator, a Twitter Space host, a webinar, a conference can have one easy way to distribute everywhere. Now, the NFT that plays into it is it eliminates friction, right? If you can automatically create an NFT around something like audio content, then you eliminate all the friction of having to go to a marketplace and create it afterwards, and then set up all the different dynamics of what that is going to be, and then have to put it in a marketplace and have to sell it. And so I think when you think of it in terms of eliminating friction, having an NFT eliminate the friction of content creation, content selling or leasing, and the ability for collectors or publishers to get easy access to this content. So
yeah, and
I think
I want to hear, and I know, sorry for cutting you off, but I do want to see how does it wrap back up into the overall state of the NFTs and why podcasts are such a good opportunity, kind of like what Jake is saying and James is saying. You make it so that the everyday person can touch it, they can buy it, they can see it, they can interact. So why is podcast that perfect, in your opinion, a great opportunity for NFTs?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of applications. Podcasters don't care about the tech. All they care about is that 99% of them aren't making money. And so is there a streamlined solution that would allow them to increase sponsorships and advertisers if they could prove engagement because they tie an NFT to track the attention? Is there a way that they can engage with their audience better, where they can give their audience a chance to be on their show or have something of significance that has social proof, if not actual collectability? And so when you think about podcasters, can we help them monetize their audience, their content through existing means by removing friction with NFTs and new means? And so I think that it's just a great chance for podcasters not to become geeks, not to learn the tech, not to understand wallets or how it all works out. For them, it needs to be like turning a light switch on and off, running water. That's what it needs to be. It needs to be a very simple solution that they say, I'm good with having a new way to monetize my podcast. I'm on episode 1500 and I'm still losing $1,500 a month. So if I could make $5,100 a month by using some of these different tools that we bake in as NFTs, then I think that that's really the key for a lot of these content creators. And we're just focused on content creators in the audio space.
I think, can I jump in there for a second as well?
Absolutely.
Like, I think one of the things that Ian is talking about is really solving a pain point. And one of the pain points that people in the music industry or people in the podcast space are facing is the monetization and how they actually get paid. And we look at art, for instance, with NFTs, and people talk about how we're removing the middleman or taking away this friction point of an artist needing to get listed in a gallery or go through all the pain that artists have done for many years to actually sell their work and make some money. And so, artists are very excited because they can upload a picture and then they can sell it directly to a consumer, and it's a peer-to-peer transaction. They make their money. And Ian's solution with Attention.live is essentially doing the same thing, but for audio, where, for example, Blau has been in the news a lot for his NFT release, and he's someone who has suffered this pain point, as a musician who streams his music on services like Spotify and gets paid for the number of streams that he gets. But his agent was explaining how sometimes those streaming services, they will take years to pay you. And, for an artist that, maybe they're owed a few $1,000s, maybe it's more than that, to wait that, extreme amount of time to actually receive that payment is a huge pain point. And it's the same for podcasts. And for someone to be able to use a content platform like Attention.live, and, to James's point before, to remove the friction of needing a wallet, needing to worry about gas fees, like for the NFT to just be created sort of on the fly and it to be behind the scenes even, and then go up for sale and create a new revenue stream for that content creator, it's really solving a huge problem. So that's why, we're really excited to work with Ian and Attention.live for that reason. We think it's a huge space that, we can help, solve that pain point for a lot of people.
Thanks, Cameron. Actually, Cameron, I do have a question for you because you probably held the longest running NFT conference. What have you seen shift from a conference holder, right?
What have we seen shift?
Yeah.
Well, okay, so James is really an OG, and he'll tell you that he was around from day one, and that the very first NFT events were all about gaming, and it was all about gaming because I think at that stage people believed, like James believes and like I believe, that NFTs should have utility, and so people were building these, great experiences around the NFTs with games and things like that. Since then, obviously, we've seen there's a number of different use cases where there's somewhat less utility and a lot more speculation, but nevertheless, we're seeing a lot more mainstream use cases for NFTs. So back to our first event in 2019, in February 2019, it took us about 10 weeks to get to 50 people to apply to speak. 2020, maybe that took 5 weeks to get 50 people to apply to speak. This year, in 5 weeks, we've had 160 people apply to speak, and it's like the growth is just astronomical. And a lot of it is due to the mainstream news that we're seeing. But the really great thing is that that's opening people's minds to like these more mainstream use cases of this technology. And so we're seeing really cool stuff come up that we hadn't thought of as people that are really focused on art or gaming or collectibles and those sort of verticals where NFTs were essentially born. We're starting to see those, the walls sort of fall down or expand a little bit, and all these cool new things happening.
James, what do you have to say about that? You're just in the beginning stages back then with Cameron.
Yeah, I think what's been interesting to see is one of the other trends which has been super interesting, right? As we've had the rise of NFTs and people recognizing just the inherent value that exists within them of scarcity and the inherent value of ownership that exists within them, is I think we've also seen, and we're just starting to see the beginnings of the cross-pollination of NFTs and DeFi. So this ties in a little bit to the utility case, and why might there be more utility behind some of the more speculative or just collectible items than we currently think. I think that one of the interesting things is this question of, say I go and spend $100,000 and I go buy a beetle or a like expensive piece of art. What can I do with it now? How many teams in the world are now building so that I can do something pretty cool pretty quickly? And what will I be able to do a year from now? In my mind, as soon as we have and we've now got quite decent liquidity at the top levels of this, but we're about to see the use of these NFTs as collateralization, which is one of the really interesting things. It actually solves one of the big problems in sort of blockchain DeFi, which is the over collateralization problem. So for different protocols like Compound or like Aave, so far you've never been able to like under collateralize. There are teams who are trying to work on tying reputation into that, but you still need to over collateralize if you want to take a loan out in something. And so if markets are liquid enough, why not just swap? Why not just swap the asset? Maybe for some people there's tax reasons, but for a lot of people, if there's no real tax benefit, then there's no real reason why not just to make a swap. With NFTs though, they are unique. If you sell something, you might not be able to get it back. It doesn't matter how liquid the market is. If I go sell, one of very rare, I think I've got a 1 of 20 Gods Unchained card. I don't have any 1 of 1s, I wish. If I had sold one of my Diamond Gods Unchained cards, then I probably wouldn't be able to buy that back. And I certainly wouldn't be able to buy it back at the price that I sold it for. However, if I went and then use that as collateral to go borrow $5,000 against, then that's a super, super interesting use case that there are teams behind the world who are building out. And all these different pieces are coming into place. So there's collateralization, there's fractionalization, right? There's teams who want to allow people to be able to split up any NFT into different fractions, and then they're taking all the best parts of DeFi and governance. And as we keep on building the pieces to make these like the original base swap, base trade, have higher and higher volume, we're going to see stuff we haven't even thought of yet, right? When you have programmable assets, whether they're programmable fungible tokens or whether they're programmable non-fungible tokens, then essentially human creativity starts becoming the limit, and people can think up new ways to deliver value that we haven't even at this point now thought of. And in 5 years' time, we'll be laughing about how in 2021, we thought this was interesting with what you could do with NFTs, but we were just at the beginning of the Cambrian explosion.
Well put, James. I love that comparison, Cambridge explosion. And who knows what's next? And I do want to bring it back to even like Miko and saying, hey, rather, pointing towards a positive future rather than a dystopian future, and almost thinking that, hey, we're going to continue to grow and evolve as human creativity is our limits. Jake, I wanted to hear some last remarks from you, since I know you've been listening in. What do you say to what James just mentioned?
Well, I think it's a really exciting sort of field. I always like to point out that it's not just about art. It's not just about collectibles. It's really about sort of creating ownership, a strong ownership of digital media and content, and that there's like a long list of things that can fall under that. It starts with art and collectibles and in-game assets, but now we're also seeing music. You guys mentioned blog posts being tokenized. There's fonts, there's icons, there's 3D models, there's stock photographs, there's metaverse assets. We can go on and on. And if you start to think, and some of the use cases are pretty boring, right? But if you sum that long tail of use cases, you really get an asset class that is pretty big. And when you think about NFTs turning kind of maybe like the intellectual property rights to these things liquid on public markets, like such as decentralized exchanges, really that's a huge liquidity event, right? It's probably one of the biggest liquidity events of all time. And that's what, like when I wear my investor hat, like that's what like really gets me exciting. Now, the other really common question I get as an NFT investor is this only just digital assets? When is it going to go to physical? And my inclination is always to say, well, digital is the low-hanging fruit, but eventually we'll be tokenizing real estate, we'll be tokenizing the deed to your motorcycle, and and things like that. And as always, blockchain moves quite a bit faster than everybody anticipates. And Mattereum, right, is out in the market right now. It's Vinay Gupta's project that's going around and actually tokenizing real world goods, starting with some William Shatner memorabilia, but also, you could see it extending to, physical art and things like that. And maybe let me leave you with the last thought about why even things like real estate is kind of interesting. I live in Williamsburg, Brooklyn here. If anyone here is from New York, you might know that in like the 1990s, Brooklyn or Williamsburg wasn't that nice of a place to live. It was kind of the place where your car got taken to get chopped up. Now, it took about a 25-year period of time for artists to come in and to like gentrify the neighborhood. And now these days we have a Apple store and a Whole Foods down the street and everything like that. Now imagine that if people could invest in the real estate of Williamsburg, but online, on their phone, through blockchain technology. Maybe they don't even live in Williamsburg. Maybe they're somewhere in China, right? And I would imagine that processes like channeling capital to places like Williamsburg in the 90s would speed up that process dramatically. And so, you could see like enormous shifts, economic shifts happening because of this technology, which starts out as people trading pictures of cats on the internet, but ends up as something like really meaningful and impactful.
Jake, thank you so much. That's a great comparison. And I wanted to say, thank you to all the panelists that joined, participated in our event. Thank you to all the speakers. Thank you to all the attendees, Jake, Ian, Cameron, James. Really fruitful discussion here. Jeff, go ahead.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone. So that wraps up the NFT conference. I want to thank everybody for attending and the ideas that everyone's talking about NFTs. And now you have the chance to hear it from some of these top thought leaders. We call it the wisdom of the crowds. And as many as mentioned and Jake said, NFTs aren't just about arts and collectibles, but about intellectual property and ownership. And we're excited for where this technology is going to take all of us into the future. And so, feel free, everybody, to subscribe to our email newsletter. We're actually going to be scheduling, more in-depth interviews with a lot of these thought leaders throughout the day where we dig deeper into NFTs. And stay tuned for our next conference.
Thank you, speakers. Thank you for joining.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Ivan. Great job.
Ivan.
Thanks
for having us.
Awesome. Wow, that was a really amazing NFT global conference. Learned a lot from these speakers. And it's so interesting to see a lot of what Miko and John Crane was saying at the very beginning, echo all the way until the end. All right, so wrapping it up. Thank you everyone for attending. Thank you attendees. Thank you panelists. Stay tuned. If you want to find out more information on when we're going to be hosting the next event, you can also subscribe at www.crowdcreate.us. If you have any questions about what was talked about, and it will be sending a recorded version of this NFT conference through an email. So make sure you subscribe and you'll get the footnotes on what was talked about. Well, thank you everyone for attending. We'll look forward to the next one.
Yeah, and just in general, Crowdcreate, we're really here to connect the community. If you do have a NFT business or crypto or blockchain company that would like to get connected to investors, strategic partners, or influencers to help you grow, please contact us. And thanks, everyone.